Fight. Fight.
Bu Almanya var ya, bu Almanya. Bunlar Nazizm. Bunlar Marksizm. Bunlar Budizm. Bunlar deizm. Bunlar faşizm. Bunlar karnizm. Bunlar seksizm. Bunlar ateizm. Bunlar Taoizm. Bunlar fetişizm. Bunlar komünizm. Bunlar Leninizm. Bunlar fideizm. Bunlar cecilizm. Bunlar kaderizm. Bunlar nihilizm. Bunlar şintoizm. Bunlar pasifizm. Bunlar feminizm. Bunlar semitizm. Bunlar siyonizm. Bunlar elitizm. Bunlar darwinizm. Bunlar aktivizm. Bunlar raşitizm. Bunlar veganizm. Bunlar politizm. Bunlar hedonizm. Bunlar hinduizm. Bunlar cainizm. Bunlar panteizm. Bunlar bolşevizm. Bunlar şovenizm. Bunlar optimizm. Bunlar pezimizm. Bunlar despotizm. Bunlar romantizm. Bunlar hümanizm. Bunlar popülizm. Bunlar kapitalizm. Bunlar globalizm. Bunlar kapitalizm. Bunlar feodalizm. Bunlar militarizm. Bunlar politeizm. Bunlar pragmatizm. Bunlar liberalizm. Almanya, sen kimsin ya? İspanya, sen kimsin ya? Amerika, sen kimsin ya? Kanada, sen kimsin ya? Japonya, sen kimsin ya? Brezilya, sen kimsin ya? Polonya, sen kimsin ya? Fransa, sen kimsin ya? Belçika, sen kimsin ya? Hollanda, sen kimsin ya? İtalya, sen kimsin ya? Namibya, sen kimsin ya? Andorra, sen kimsin ya? Danimarka, sen kimsin ya? Letonya, sen kimsin ya? Estonya, sen kimsin ya? İrlanda, sen kimsin ya? Nijerya, sen kimsin ya? Uganda, sen kimsin ya? Rusya, sen kimsin ya? Rusya, sen kimsin ya? Romanya, sen kimsin ya? Meksika, sen kimsin ya? Bolivya, sen kimsin ya? Frikya, sen kimsin ya? Mudanya, sen kimsin ya? Kumanya, sen kimsin ya? Komedya, sen kimsin ya? Lavinya, sen kimsin ya? Kilikya, sen kimsin ya? Polonya, sen kimsin ya? Ütopya, sen kimsin ya? Çiçekya, sen kimsin ya? Botswana, sen kimsin ya? Sen kimsin ya? Kim bu ya?
Sen kimsin ya? Sen kimsin ya?
Bunlar Taoizm. Bunlar fetişizm. Bunlar komünizm. Bunlar Leninizm. Bunlar fideizm. Bunlar cecilizm. Bunlar kaderizm. Bunlar nihilizm. Bunlar şintoizm. Bunlar pasifizm. Bunlar feminizm. Bunlar semitizm. Bunlar siyonizm. Bunlar elitizm. Bunlar darwinizm. Bunlar aktivizm. Bunlar raşitizm. Bunlar veganizm. Bunlar politizm. Bunlar hedonizm. Bunlar hinduizm. Bunlar cainizm. Bunlar panteizm. Bunlar bolşevizm. Bunlar şovenizm. Bunlar optimizm. Bunlar pezimizm. Bunlar despotizm. Bunlar romantizm. Bunlar hümanizm. Bunlar popülizm. Bunlar liberalizm. Olmuyor ya, nasıl yapacağız? Merhaba arkadaşlar, nasılsınız? Keyifler nasıl? Bu arada I forgot to check the The chat. Oh, the chat is here. Okay. So we have another live show with Boh3m. Before you say anything, this is going to be an English live show, and our actual live show is going to be again on Saturday. The Saturday A Socials. This is our this is the name of our live show. Saturday A Socials, because I realize there are so many people actually who don't go anywhere, who don't go out in Saturday evenings, in Saturday nights, and they prefer to play games online most of the time, or they have projects to do. So they do that and then they watch our show meanwhile. So that's a show for them.
Nice.
So thank you all the sponsors for the last week, guys. We're going to have a very nice show because I'm getting prepared for the day. You're going to like it. Capitalism talks. So we have our guest Boh3m again. It's going to be a short and sweet live show around a couple of hours. We're going to have some crazy topics. We're going to entertain some crazy ideas, like life in USA versus life in Turkey. Does it even make sense for an American to move to Turkey or to live in Turkey? Because I know my friends are saying we're just trying to get away from here, we're just trying to run away from here. Why are you even saying the other way is also a possibility? We're going to talk about that, and of course we're going to talk about health. Since the last time we talked, Boh3m, you started gym, right?
Yep.
I didn't know you were the same kilo as, who was that guy, Avocado?
Nico Cotto, yeah, oh my god.
So what does he do? Like, is he a mukbanger?
Yeah, he's a mukbanger, and I don't know what his body makeup is, but I think that, like, while we're the same weight, he seems to be larger, like puffier. I don't know if he has the same muscle mass that I do. Like, I'm not a bodybuilder or anything, but I think that I do have a pretty good amount of muscle, like in my legs and my chest and my back, to where some of that is helping me be slightly less large. But yeah, I'm about the same weight as that guy. And he's had so much food. Oh my God. I don't know. I certainly haven't been eating it the same way that that guy has, but damn, that was a big shakeup for me where I also don't know his height. I'm about 5'10", so I don't know if he's a shorter person, which would make him look a little bit larger as well, but that was a moment to find out about that.
I'm pretty sure he's shorter, because the shorter people look really wide with the same kilos. And the taller people, even if they have more fat, they still look big than just fat. So
Yeah, well, I mean, it's distributed over the whole frame there. I mean, it's like a stretch kind of thing, but you know.
is he also American?
Nico Cotto, I believe so, yeah. Yeah,
So-
I'm pretty sure he's based in I don't know a ton about him. Like, I mainly just saw, his stuff coming up here and there where people were getting concerned. They were just like, this guy kind of went from being a very small, fit, vegan violinist to this very large, unhealthy person that's being
Oh, I
essentially
didn't know
paid
that.
to eat.
I know he used to be like that.
Yeah. Have you not seen those videos?
Was he a YouTuber again?
Well,
you-
if you just look up like Nico Cotto before and after, you'll see some of the pictures of this
Wow.
this young man who began. He's very normal size, looked like, healthy weight. He was vegan when he was first starting out. He wasn't necessarily an athlete, from what I gather. He was just a normally proportioned person. But he's so aggressively gained weight because of these mukbangs that people have gotten really alarmed by it.
It's very interesting. I don't know if you realize it because you lived in USA all the time. I realized it when I went to USA and when I actually saw, because like from the movies, from Hollywood movies or from TV series, you don't actually realize that there is something called like American fat. There is fat and there is American fat. Because, for example, in Turkey, you can be that guy which doesn't do any, I don't know, any physical activities, and which eats all the time. you
Yeah.
still won't, you would be fat, but you wouldn't be American fat. Because in USA, for example, in Turkey, you still have to walk some stairs. You still have to go walk somewhere. And of course, since you have to walk, you have leg muscles.
You burn some calories.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
burn some calories and you have leg muscles. So Turkish fat means some guy who have some muscles in arms and mostly legs, but who has a very huge belly, and
Yeah.
that's it.
We
But
call that like a beer gut or a dad bod or something
yeah,
like
yeah.
that. Mm.
But in USA, it's really incredible. I saw people who were so fat they weren't able to walk just
Land
because of that.
whales.
And land whales?
That's
Land whale, huh? Yeah.
it's that's not a very PC way to call it, but I'm just calling it like it is. You see a lot of people that are on motorized scooters or that are immobilized by how fat they have gotten.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do have that. And I live in the southeastern United States, which has a massive obesity problem. Like we're talking like over a third of the population in a lot of these states is morbidly obese.
Yeah, that's really
Huge,
bad.
huge, huge. Oh yeah, it's incredibly bad. If we could figure out a way to somehow power our country off of exercising that human fat and burning that fat, we would probably be able to get at least a little bit off of oil.
Yeah.
But I don't think people are that motivated yet. We have to figure out a way. Maybe if we power vending machines with treadmills, that'll work. But I don't know.
So I was seeing, I think the difference, for example, in USA, the places are so big, so far apart from each other. So it's not like you can get out of the car and take a, of course, unless you're in New York or something, somewhere very packed. But we were like in Seattle, but of course there's also the metropolitan area of Seattle. So I was living
Oh
in
yeah.
Linwood, and I was going to Bellevue for work. So the problem is you can't, if you decide to walk, it's very hard. So everyone has a car and it's very easy to have a car. It's very easy. For example, you go to the post office, there are even drive-in post offices. So you go and
Yeah.
you deposit your whatever you have to send, your envelopes, and then you don't even have to eat, you don't even have to get out. And there are some restaurants which only serves to cars, for example, that
Yeah.
like steak,
Drive-throughs. Hmm.
very interesting.
I
So
mean, yeah, you could say it's interesting. It's weird that we've become very car centric, And I think that, and I don't mean to cut you off, by the way.
no, no,
I
no,
see kind
no
of where
problem.
we're discussing, right? The sprawl of it, and that's been something that's really bummed me out. Is like I wish that there was more walkability.
Yeah,
There have been a few times in my life where I've preferred walking to and from work because it saves money on gas. It's good exercise, gets you out. Yeah, some days aren't great because it'll rain or snow or it'll just be too hot or whatever. But it's overall a net benefit to be able to walk places, right?
yeah,
But I think that with us being such a younger country and with the um, automobile revolution and the industrial revolution that we've gone through, so much of our country is based around cars that it's ultimately doing way more harm than than it should in the pursuit of convenience. You get those drive-throughs and you get suburban sprawl is what a lot of people call it, where you have these neighborhoods of housing that are so far away from retail spots, your grocery stores, your outlet stores to go and get clothes and supplies and whatnot, to where you can't help but have a car. You're forced to have a
yeah,
car. And it sucks because we've used so much natural space on parking lots. Like that's part of why I was amazed at what you were talking about with like parking at your place, where I'm like, I can't fucking escape them. I've got parking lots everywhere I go. Like that's our national heritage now is franchised restaurants and you know and parking lots everywhere. It's really quite nuts, and we're not efficient about it whatsoever. We haven't put money into buses or monorails or systems to consolidate people in a way that's good.
like
It's
train system, like train system,
yeah.
like New
I
York
mean,
has.
some cities have it, but not a lot. Those are little pockets.
Yeah,
Yeah, New York has it. Like San Francisco has a what's it called? The BART system. some Bay Area regional transport, um, which sucks because if they had gone with Francisco area transport, regional transport, that would have made me laugh. But the truth is, we don't have enough incentives for, let's say, like a national train line. You have Amtrak, which
Yeah.
does okay, but their prices aren't that great. The price to go on an Amtrak train is about the same as air travel.
Yeah.
And people ultimately kind of go, well, my job doesn't give me a lot of PTO. I'm going to spend an extra 50 or $100 to get there in 5 hours instead of 2 days. And it sucks a lot. Like it's bad for everybody.
It's not very convenient either because it's like it goes from one place to another very further place, but it's not like a bus, because like in Izmir, it's like a bus, or in New York is like that also, it has many stops like a bus, yani.
Yeah, I mean, I've been in areas before that had some really good options there. Like when I was living in Denver, for example, that had a decent rail system where my job at the time also had a free pass for buses and the train system. And I was able to live in a different part of the metropolitan area. Short walk, we're talking maybe like a half a mile to the station, go right to where it was at the plaza I was working at, and I was good. I didn't need all that. And most of the space that's in my car is used to store crap I don't really need very often, or is only to like be there in an emergency of being in my car. Like if I was snowed in, I have a blanket and like some water and all that kind of stuff. Obviously, I don't need that now in the region I'm in. But it was the whole system seems very silly to me. I wish we could get to a more walkable, uh, community-based infrastructure. That would be better off for everybody. Like you could still
And
have the
you
cars,
won't be
but
dependent that much on oil anyway. You would be using
yeah,
so little oil.
that would solve a few problems, I think.
Yeah.
People would be more fit or just have heart attacks because they finally had to walk in their lives, so you have less of a problem. Like there's a lot of benefit.
Like from Seattle, we had the train which goes until Vancouver, Canada. So
Oh wow.
you would be able to see like the evolution of people as you go from Seattle. The people are getting slimmer, and the dresses also, the clothes are getting better and better, and
Yeah.
people are looking more European. And when you're there, when you're in Vancouver, the
Yeah.
people are like from Europe, because yeah. And when you get down, they have the SkyTrain. SkyTrain is very nice actually. We have Izban in Izmir, so SkyTrain is like Izban, and they're actually going to make it even more, make it even better. So they actually have a very nice transportation system in there. So hopefully, and also in USA, another thing which really surprised me was so many people have cars, and there are so big roads, and with lots of lanes actually, like 4 or 5 lanes, and like there was a
Yeah.
lane at the left, the leftist, and I was asking why is it different, and they said this is a carpool lane, and I was wondering, carpool lane, you mean like when 5 people get in it or something? And the my friend said, no, if it's more than one person. And I looked around the
Yeah.
cars, huge cars, every car
One
one
person.
person, every car one person, and huge cars. Like in Turkey,
Yeah.
you literally can't do it. You wouldn't be able to fit.
Oh, it's insane because you get people that are like, I always laugh because you get people that are obsessed with the idea of safety and they want to drive like a tank. It's this huge SUV that is like 10 miles to the gallon and very inefficient and massive and very tall. And this little itty bitty person is driving it.
Yeah,
And you're just sitting there
that
going like,
Asian woman. I
you're
was
more
going
of
to
a
say
risk than anything
that.
else.
I was going to
I
say
mean,
that a little Asian woman.
or some little grandpa looking over his knuckles or whatever, and you're just like, I get that you want to have safety, and at a certain point that's everybody's concern, right? But when you're driving this massive vehicle down the highway, you're now a larger risk. And it's crazy. I see it and I really wonder what everybody's thinking, because I understand that people are forced to do it. You've got to go, to see your doctor, or it's a need to do, but it's not being fixed. like our country does not really want to fix its problems because if they did that, they'd sell less cars.
Yeah,
Like there's so much linked in that's making things difficult to make better. The automakers are lobbying against, train initiatives because they will lose money if people have
yeah,
to buy less vehicles and
yeah.
like it's nuts. And then you have stuff like Elon Musk's Boring project with the Hyperloop. Have you seen this?
Oh
Are
yeah,
you?
that's
Yeah, that's one
I.
of the stupidest ideas I've ever seen in my life. I can't imagine it because someone somewhere, some techie asshole convinced a civic planner that they should put the money towards it. And I'm like, this is a death tube. This is how people die in their cars, just stuck in traffic that's now just one car at a time. Very, very poor
What wasn't
planning, in my
wasn't
opinion.
Hyperloop a train? I thought it was a train.
Maybe I'm getting my terms overlapped because I might have them
Ah,
kind of
yeah.
in the same pocket in my brain. But I am talking about kind of Elon Musk's car-centered like tube
Ah,
solution
I don't
done
know
by the
that one.
Boring
I don't
Company.
know that one.
Oh man, I don't know if I'm
I
smart
know
enough to
another
explain how
one.
dumb it is. Yeah, like there's a Hyperloop train system
Yeah,
that supposedly, like it's kind of what it says on the box. It's a train that goes through a loop. But Elon Musk has a company that's called the Boring Company that is trying to solve traffic by having cars. All right, so the theory is you have these series of tubes that will have rails to guide car tires that will theoretically move cars at 150 miles an hour safely.
oh, I didn't know
It's
that.
supposed to be the traffic solver. Oh, it's not really happening, but that's what they're selling. So the whole theory is you would take your car into a facility that would then take it down into the tube infrastructure, and then your car goes down, and little guide almost bearings kind of go around your tires like a car wash or something like that, and push your car along to the intended destination at 150 miles an hour. Um, Aside from the fact that tunneling car-sized tubes into the ground underneath all of these cities in clusters of 3 to 12 different tubes is mind-bogglingly impossible because of all the existing infrastructure, let's say water mains, sewage pipes, internet connections, electrical connections, subways, pedestrian tubes, all different, not to mention the fucking earth itself, like the different deposits you're probably going to run into of natural materials and rocks. It's just not feasible to do in any reasonable amount of time. And let's say they did it, right? Let's say they made all of these things. And then you have vehicles running on either gas or, battery power. This isn't actually anchored to either technology. There's fucking magic, and then there's actual machines. People that have to troubleshoot any machine, computer or, vehicular, know that sooner or later shit's going to go wrong. It's not
Yeah.
going to work. Something's going to happen. And it's either going to be a design issue or a user issue or even an environmental issue that's neither design based or user based, right? Shit happens in a lot of different ways. So, what happens when you have an infrastructure based around individual cars with either explodable batteries or explodable combustible materials moving at 150 miles an hour in a contained space? If that causes a fire or an explosion, that's a really bad day for everybody. Um, so, in my opinion, it seems like an asinine project, but I just can't believe that that's the best they could think of to try and solve the traffic issue when there's already trains and other methods that have been proven in different metro areas that they're just choosing not to deploy. It's a silly world.
Interesting. So this is going to work inside the city. I thought like when you said Hyperloop, there's another Hyperloop like with trains, which like goes from New York to London, for example, instead of a plane. So I didn't know that thing which you talked about.
Isn't that like a bullet train? Is that more or less the same thing where it's just a very fast train that's
Ah,
like 200 some odd miles an hour?
so it's called Hyperloop again, but it's
Hmm.
inside the vacuum. That's the difference because when it's inside the vacuum, you won't have air drag. So if you don't have air drag, you can go as fast as you want. So it's literally like lots and lots faster than planes, for example.
That
We'll
sounds
see.
way more thought out than the Elon Musk version, honestly.
Yeah,
Like his version just is basically a shitty carnival ride in tubes under the ground. So Hyperloop is a totally separate thing. So
yeah.
that's my mistake.
Maybe it's the same. Maybe it's called the same thing. I don't know. Maybe it's like a hyperloop is like a broader term. I don't know.
Maybe. Like
Yeah,
you think that's maybe like the infrastructure idea or something?
yeah, it can be.
Yeah.
How about American food? Because that was another thing.
Sugar and everything.
Yeah, that was another thing. I was actually walking so much when I went to USA, and even then, somehow managed to pass my maximum weight. Like
Oh yeah.
I managed to be 85 kilos. I was never. When even when I was thinking I'm like 82 or something, or when I'm fat, I was like 82, 83, and then I passed 85, and I was actually walking so much, so I just couldn't understand. And then I realized it's so much food with sugar, with dough.
Most of it.
They put sugar everywhere, to everything. I don't know if you realized.
In beverages. Oh God, yeah. No, ever since I started really looking into it, which hasn't been recent, like I've known about this before, but it's for marketing. Like it's just to make it more palatable for Americans because even in like burger buns or breads or whatever, like the American market is oversaturated with either high fructose corn syrup, which is very concentrated corn syrup, or just straight up cane sugar in so many things, as well as salt. Like salt and sugar, like we overload everything. And I mean, this is in beverages as well as foods and in our grains. It's silly because all these added things to make them more tasty to the American market is killing the American market. But it's also not needed in the first place. Instead of people getting good, wholesome food that has a bunch of grains and it's just overall good, bread being the example I'm working with right now, they kind of treat them like babies. They're just like, oh, we'll feed you the French fry because that makes you stop crying. Like that's kind of how the American populace has been in a long time. It's almost like it's almost like the companies that sold cigarettes and smoking have taken over food. There's like it's addictive because we know that you can get addicted to sugar, that you can get addicted to all these things. But we won't tell you that. You're just going to enjoy this product and it's just going to be the golden arches, right?
Yeah.
I'm honestly more shocked that they haven't tried to force caffeine into more things. Like soon we will have caffeinated bread and caffeinated hot dogs and caffeinated sugar salty chips or something. I guarantee it. Because if there's a way to make people more addicted to food, they have to do that for capitalism.
I'm thinking, can it also be because in USA you make so much corn, and people, yeah, they make so much corn, and they probably thinking, what are we going to do with all this corn, and they make it into sugar, corn syrup.
Some of it, yeah. I mean,
So with caffeine,
corn.
you don't make so much caffeine, or you don't make so much coffee beans or something,
It's
but
true.
with corn you produce it, and maybe they're trying to find a market or something. Can it be?
Probably. I mean, there's a big problem with farming where it's what's it called, monoculture, where it's only fields of corn. We get a lot of corn and it has a lot of uses. It's a food stuff. You can turn corn into, I believe, ethanol, right, as a fuel additive. You can also make high fructose corn syrup. Uh, it's definitely a multi-useful crop, but I agree. It does seem to be growing all over the place. It all comes down to just cash. That's all it
Yeah.
is. That's ultimately what we're trying to grow, and it's killing us.
It's really funny because there's this fat acceptance movement, and
Oh God, yeah,
whenever
I
I was
hate that
seeing
shit.
whenever I was seeing that, they were saying, "Oh, they're trying to fat shame people. They're trying to say fatness is not healthy because of the diet companies or because of capitalism and diet companies and workout companies. But how about fast food companies? Does
Exactly.
does
Yeah.
McDonald's and Burger King make more money, or the diet companies make more
When
money?"
you think about it, people that are fat acceptance influencers have their own brand agenda that they're trying to push. They're trying to make money as fat acceptance representatives because
Yeah,
being a fat acceptance person, you're trying to get into other industries and going like, hey, I'm a fat person. I'm a person that's in this community, and you can represent the fat community by hiring me to be your brand model or to do whatever. So like it in a sick way, they're right in the wrong way. I think that everything is predatory, right? You've got your fast food, right? You've got your personal habits where you're feeding the convenience of now or a craving or whatever. There are also predatory gyms and exercise things. I think CrossFit has been called out a lot because you have a lot of people that are not focused on form and getting the proper fluidity of movement and causing injuries while they're just kind of swinging around on the monkey bars like a bunch of assholes holding weights, on their belts. It's not that those things can't work for some people that are already athletic and know how to maintain what's going on with that. It's all in how you approach it. Same way that martial arts, right? So you mentioned doing martial arts before. Was it jujitsu?
Aikido.
Aikido, pardon me. And I imagine if you are not prepared to participate in a martial arts training physically, right? If you're very old and you have some body mobility issues like range of motion, or if you're very fat as well, you probably can't participate in Aikido at the same way as someone at a normal weight, or in a better healthy shape.
Yeah.
And I
So
mean, the problem is like it's individualistic standards. Even within the fat acceptance movement, it's not pro fat guy.
yeah.
It's beautiful large women, but it's fat dudes and overweight men. And
Yeah.
it's like, come on, like how many standards are we creating here? It's like a hydra. You slice it up, and it's like, okay,
Yeah.
well, how many different ways can you argue about bodies?
Well, as they say, more. How was it? More for you to love.
No, no,
So
no.
I didn't understand what you said. Did you say they make fat people do cross training?
Have you ever heard of CrossFit?
CrossFit I know, but I didn't know they were making fat people do that.
Well, you're not. They're not making them. It's not like a conversion camp for fat people
No.
where they're saying, hey, you have to do
But
this.
I didn't know like there
But
was a like how can you do it? It's very hard.
well, I was using I was using that as an example of like something that could be seen as predatory only to fat people, but is also predatory to people that aren't prepared for that level of athleticism
Yeah.
as well. That's what I was mainly doing with that. But yeah, fat people doing CrossFit would be funny for about 5 seconds, and then it would probably be really scary and sad, where you're just like, you're breaking yourself. Don't do that. You have to start this very gently. Because in my own trip back to the gym,
I
if
was
you
going to ask
can't
that
go for
actually.
regularity, or oh yeah, okay, yeah. I mean, like it's been going pretty well as far as my own trips back to it. I've gained weight and lost weight a few times now, so I know, I know my own bad habits, and that I just need to get shit done by going to the gym and putting in the work, and all I'm doing at this stage is going with 3 days a week, like you and I were talking about.
Yeah.
But I'm basically focusing in on those 3 days as a way to build up a very good sweat, get in a lot of different reps with the weight training, is working different muscle groups, but to work on consistency and just cardio, just walking. Like right now, I'm doing 2.5 miles a day, whereas last week it was only 2 miles a day, walking on the treadmill. Next week I'm going to go for another half mile on top of that, so I'll be up to about 3 miles a day, until I'm at about 4 miles per day. And I break that into 2 sessions. I just warm up with the first section, and then after my workout I do the rest of the treadmill stuff, which has been fine. I've had some days where I'm achy as shit. I bend over to put on my shoes, and you get that kind of feeling, but that's a good pain. Just means working the muscles. So
Yeah.
beyond that, it's an endurance race, right? You're doing it for the long term instead of
Yeah,
the
yeah.
short term.
So do you walk to the gym or do you have to take some transportation?
I gotta drive.
You have a car.
Yeah,
But
no, it
not
sucks.
too much,
I
I
gotta
guess.
drive 15. Well, it's about 10 or 15 minutes away.
Well,
So
not
I
too
mean,
much.
yeah, not much at all. And honestly, it's going back to the discussion about cars and infrastructure. The area that I'm in would be really wonderful to walk around, but there aren't sidewalks everywhere around my home.
Yeah, I know.
Some of the areas, right? So you get to a spot
Yeah.
where I don't want to risk getting run over by some idiot in a car on a cell phone, just because there's not a sidewalk and I'm in a ditch walking at an angle like that. It sucks. So that's where trails and hiking come in as well. But it's beautiful weather right now with fall, so I've been doing a little bit of trail walking, not as much as I'd like, but I'll be doing more of that soon.
It's really interesting, like USA, like United States of America, who sent ships to space, you know, don't have sidewalks in some places. It's really like I realized it when I went also.
Oh yeah.
Why are they hating pedestrians so much? I don't know.
I don't know. And like it's weird because for American exceptionalism, they like individual feats of greatness, and then they don't have to do them anymore. Like they
Yeah,
just go, cool. We knocked that off. We checked that box. We're not going to worry about that. And they don't worry about making the world that we're in better for everyone. It's really just for the people that pay to make things better, which is somehow people and taxes. I haven't worked it out myself, but it's pretty fucked up right now because rich people don't pay taxes, but taxpayers pay for these massive things that don't come back to us. We have a very strange country that doesn't seem to be working very well. So I'm just hoping it makes it another 20 or 30 years, maybe. We'll see.
it's really uh, it's really interesting. You know that saying again. It's one of those sayings which I heard before, and then when I went, saw it with my eyes. There are more empty houses than there are homeless people in USA. So
Oh, yeah.
I was walking by and I was seeing all those empty houses. It's obviously empty. Nobody's there because nobody was able to afford it. And I was seeing all those homeless people, of course. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
I guess that's the system. I guess that's the way. I don't know. I'm not saying that's necessarily a bad thing or a good thing. I don't know. It's just
Well,
interesting.
we're
Interesting.
it's weird because with homelessness, there's been an uptick in people that are homeless. And they're even changing the language around it where they're just saying you don't call people homeless, you say they're people experiencing homeless, which to me says that a lot of folks have already acknowledged the dehumanization of the homeless population. They're saying if you call them homeless, you're not recognizing their people, which is a very funny way of acknowledging that. But then you also have stuff like van culture. Like I don't know if you've seen influencers that are like, we're gonna get an RV or a van and convert it into basically car camping or whatever. But that's just advanced homelessness. There's people out there that say, like, oh, I'm living the life that I want where I'm able to drive anywhere and work from my van and I, have everything I need here. And I'm like, nah, you've just given up on owning your own home. And if you've given up on it, you may have your own reasons, but this many people giving up on it just means that it's become less attainable. It's not something that most people can get now.
Yeah.
We have home prices going nuts right now as well with rent also. So we're in the middle of a blender of shit right now, buddy. It's a crazy place.
In Turkey and also in Romania, like there were some places with very small apartments. Uh, so even if you had one job and you're one person, you'll be able to afford it. So
How small are these places?
it's maybe one room or just a living room. It's like that.
So we call that like an efficiency apartment or maybe like a studio apartment
Studio
where
apartment, yeah.
it's yeah, okay. I mean, how much? Well, I don't know what the exchange rate is right now. For instance, in America right now, a studio apartment like that in even a non-metropolitan area, like places like New York City and San Francisco have always been very expensive, so I don't use
Yeah.
those as markers. But studio apartments here in the southeastern United States are going for about um, I'd say about 800 or $900 per month,
Yeah.
which is kind of crazy.
Isn't doesn't it make sense that in whatever city you live in, yeah, no matter if you're like in a town in Romania or a city in Turkey or a big city in USA, at least you should be able to afford like a studio house to rent a studio house if you're working in the same city. But it's not like that, unfortunately.
Theoretically. Yeah, some
Unfortunately, it's
places
not
aren't
like
that
that.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was actually a news article. I think it was somewhere is it somewhere in Idaho? Let me see if I can find it really quick. I'll try not to distract because we've got a really good rhythm here. But People couldn't afford to live there, and these were people that were working already in the restaurant industry and hospitality industry, right, hotels and
Yeah.
whatnot. But they were living in tents, basically a homeless camp. And the city was like, "Yeah, we'll just create a spot outside of town for your tents. Good luck." Uh, let's see. Let's see. I'm gonna see if I can find it in one Google search.
No problem.
Yeah. Okay. So there's an article here that's basically saying there's an Idaho resort town worker living in trailers and tents that can't afford housing in a place called Ketchum, Ketchum. Um, but long story short, they can't afford to live in the area that they work because of what's going on with the cost of living. I sent you the article in Discord if you're interested in checking that
Yeah,
out
sure.
later on. But that's a growing trend. It's not everywhere, but it shouldn't have to be everywhere. Most places where you're earning minimum wage, which a lot of jobs start people out at, you can't afford a studio apartment. You typically have roommates. I had roommates until I was in my 30s. So I was about 33 or 34 years old. I had to live with two or three other, sometimes total fucking strangers. Like I'd move to a different part of the country and I'd like look up on roommates.com or something. I'd be like, okay, let me look at the price range first, and then I'll figure out if it's this person is safe enough for me to live with.
Yeah.
At one point, when I was going down to Tampa, Florida, this is like 2004, maybe 2005. I moved all the way down there, having arranged this over the telephone. Never even saw the place. Got in, wasn't a bad house. Got into the house, and my sister calls me and goes, "Hey, I just did a search for sex offenders in the area that you just moved, and my fucking roommate was a sex offender. He didn't tell me that before I moved in, so I had to
I was
find
going
out
to ask,
from this
was that he
creeper."
or she?
It was a guy. Yeah, it was totally a guy, and he was like, "Yeah, the guy I was dating said that he was 18. It was that whole fucking racket." And I was like, "Okay, time for me to leave." I got away. But that shit happens, and there's also risks when you're living with roommates that Like I've had friendships go south because I lived with
Of
people
course.
because
Oh,
when you're
of
in the
course.
same living space,
Yeah.
you're gonna butt heads. Stuff happens. So it
Everything,
just
everything is
sucks.
different. Everything is different. I
And
just won't be
everything
able to do it.
irritates everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll never do it again if I have the choice.
Yeah.
Like I will unfortunately pay a lot of money just to be in a house by myself.
Yeah. So hopefully you will come here to visit at some point.
Maybe. Yeah.
And of course, I'm not. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's like a better life if you would live here. But because I don't know the answer to that question either. But you might still like it because when I don't know if you're still experiencing depression or something, or
Well,
is
that's
it
something
better?
that's been a big part of my life. It gets better, but you have moments. I mean, um, I have not really gotten to a stage where I could say I will never feel depression.
Hmm.
It's more of just living with the disease. Like it's
No,
learning
yeah,
how to recognize those moments and kind of go like, okay, this is how I'm feeling. Like, why is this? Try and fix that problem forward. So,
yeah. So you said you're getting money, you're earning money by working online. Is it still like that?
well, I work from home. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
also,
yeah.
okay, yeah. I mean, I also have Patreon, which has been really cool. I mean,
Hmm.
some of the people that were watching the YouTube stuff have decided to support me there, which has been decent. I mean, like it's a long ways off from being something that I could subsist on, but it still every bit helps. I'm just saving it for now to go towards equipment and production costs. But yeah, I do still have a job working from home, and that's been going well. That's taking care of, um, my monthly bills. It has benefits. I've got medical insurance, dental, vision, all that kind of stuff. So overall, it's been pretty good.
Yeah, I'm glad.
Hmm.
Because it means that if you liked another city or even another country, you will be able to go there and live and still do your work, right?
Theoretically, yes. But the thing is, and I experienced some of this when I lived in Denver and many years ago when I lived in Los Angeles, that is contingent on that job staying constant. And at this stage, it's tough for me to trust any job and saying that I'll be in any given job for 5 to 10 years. Too much happens in the world. So I have to anticipate not having that remote opportunity, which means I either have to look for other remote jobs, which is kind of a pain in the ass now because, I mean, pandemic, everybody wanted remote jobs. I got very lucky to get a remote job. Or being able to also get a job locally. So if I were living in another country, Turkey, UK, France, Spain, anywhere, I would have to be comfortable enough to know the language, right? To be able to function at a local business, and I'd also have to be prepared for all that entails. You know, if I move to another country, I'm not shipping my car, right? So I would have to be able to walk everywhere. So there's just a lot of factors with that. But that being said, I have definitely considered many times over leaving the United States because I'm not excited about how things are going over here. And it's probably one of those grass is always greener situations where,
Of course.
you know,
Everyone from Turkey wants to go to USA. They want to escape to USA.
I bet we could trade. We could just, Red Rover that situation just 1-to-1, and I think people would probably be okay with that. But like, I don't take for granted that there are some good points to living in the United States, but there are, as living anywhere, honestly, there are downsides. There are definitely negatives.
Yeah.
So if I had the opportunity to go somewhere that seemed to address those negative points, and I could keep my standard of living the same, I'd probably do that, honestly.
So if you want, I can tell you about my life.
Yeah, sure.
So you can compare. And in here, wherever you need to go, you can take a train or a tram, and that's a nice place. That's a nice thing. And if you would come here, you would probably be living in this area, like Alsancak or Izmir area, which is a walking distance to everywhere. And this is like a elite place of Izmir. Izmir is a very elite city of Turkey, and Alsancak is an elite place of Izmir. So around here there are actually many foreigners, Americans, British people, many Russians. I don't know why.
Have you had more Russians going to the area with the whole Ukraine thing?
No.
Just out of curiosity, because I've heard that there was kind of an exodus where.
Oh no, we always had Russians in here. I don't know why.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it's a good thing. I'm not complaining.
Oh, I don't know much about Russians and Russia in general. I was just curious. I've seen a lot of news articles about that whole thing.
So you know that we're living in the Middle East. So there are so many people who are coming from the Middle East and bringing their culture, of course. And of course, us being secular, we're a little, when those people come and they're a little too Muslim, if you know what I mean. So it makes us a little uncomfortable. But of course, people from Europe, we don't have a problem.
So you don't have a problem with so as an example, what bothers me about living in the Southeastern is evangelical Christians. Like we have some very, very, our country's dealing with something that's being called Christian nationalism, where people that are very conservative, very, Christian oriented are also sometimes conspiracy theorist nut jobs, and they're trying to take things over. It's getting really weird over here. Do you get many of those people coming over as well?
From Christians or from any?
Christians specifically. I mean, religious extremists are probably going to be a problem from anywhere in the country. Yeah. But I mean,
So in Alsancak, it's very interesting. Since there are many foreigners, there are actually churches also. So if you would want to, you would go to churches. Sometimes I even hear people chanting from inside the church, but they are very closed. They are very secretive. So yeah. I don't know if they would approach you seeing that you're American, but of course we were never approached. There are of course Jehovah's Witnesses, but they don't bother people either. They
I've never really had much of a problem with Jehovah's Witnesses. Yeah, they're very polite.
They don't come to your door. They don't knock your door and say, "Do you have a moment for Jesus?" We don't have. We just don't have.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, they do that a bunch over here.
So, the one of the good things about Turkey compared to USA is people can't be too pushy, because in here, like compared to USA, people are angry, which is not nice, but also nice at the same time, because other people don't bother you.
Okay.
For example, I see, like in LA, there was a guy who was shooting with cell phone the girls, and they bothering trying to meet with the girls, and he even had a YouTube channel, and the girls would get so bothered, they would walk away, try to walk away. The guy would chase them, and I was actually making fun of that, because like if something like that happened in Turkey, they would beat that guy in the first day.
Wow.
And
Yeah, I hate those prank channels and the
yeah.
ones that just basically are harassing
Oh
people
no,
for content.
this is like a sexual predator. This is not a
Oh,
prank.
that's horrible.
That's a sexual predator, because he is a convicted predator. But he got
Wow.
out. He got out of the jail, and he was still doing that. That was very
Jesus.
interesting, and he was like ranting about women, why women don't want, and one day he's going to force them or something. It's
My God.
unbelievable. And it's unbelievable why nothing is being done, and
We've got some real crazies over here, man.
Yeah.
Like
Too much
there's
freedom.
fucking freaky people.
too much
That
freedom.
that could very well be the case, yeah. Because I feel like if you're, and this is a much larger discussion philosophically, but I think
Definitely.
if you were to allow people to do, not whatever they want, but a larger amount of whatever you like for quote unquote freedom, they also have to understand that you have responsibility within the civic
Yeah,
structure to not
yeah,
be an asshole or to be dangerous or creepy or whatever. Like there's a matter of being civil,
yeah.
on top of enjoying those freedoms. And like I think a lot of Americans miss that point of, don't do any harm in your pursuit of freedom, and that's where the disconnect happens.
The police brutality, like in USA. I don't know if you,
Yeah,
I don't know if you
there's a
saw it.
lot of that.
I don't know if you saw it, like witnessed it with your eyes. Of course, we see it on the news or something all the time. Uh,
Um, I don't think I've seen it. I mean, I've seen people tased before, which is
mhm.
not good. But like that was like two or three people that were obviously very, very drunk and very
Yeah,
opposed to the police. So that felt, I don't know if it's my place to say if it's appropriate, but it at least made more sense than some of
yeah.
these very senseless police brutality clips I've been seeing. But yeah, I know what you're talking about.
So, uh, as I see, like Turkey compared to USA, if you're a normal person, of course, if you're a normal person, uh, you are, I don't know. I never had,
I'm mostly
especially in
normal.
Izmir, where people are better, they treat better. If you know how to talk properly to the police, you don't get, you don't get jumped or something, because as I see in USA, the police is very on the edge. They're very on the edge, because there's like a
Oh yeah,
possibility everyone has a gun, and I see from the body cams, like there's a possibility they ask like a license from the guy, and the guy just
yeah.
starts shooting the police, because everyone has a gun. Like
I've seen that.
in
Well,
Turkey,
not everybody has a gun, but I see what you're saying.
yeah,
Like,
many
there's the
people,
possibility.
and
Yeah,
it's like a random guy who does that. Like in Turkey, only like I don't know, terrorist organizations would do that. So
yeah,
the police is more relaxed, actually. Interesting, but the police, especially in Izmir, they're more relaxed. Uh, for example,
yeah.
they
And
were
I,
saying in USA, when the police stops you, you have to put your hands on the wheel, or you're in trouble. We don't have that in USA, because we don't
yeah.
get those things. Yeah, you were saying
Yeah,
something.
no, oh yeah, and I was just basically going to say that I think that a lot of police officers experience PTSD because they have to go through so many traumatic experiences of being concerned that someone's going to pull a gun and fire on them. And
Yeah.
I've seen some of the body cam footage. Shit, there was one where a guy was getting pulled out of a restaurant, like literally just taken out of a restaurant. I can't remember the full context of it, but the man pulled a weapon, and the officers had to fire on him. Like I think he got a shot off, but there are a lot of people that are fiercely anti-police. You may see ACAB, which means all
Mm-hmm.
cops are bastards,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't believe that that's accurate, but it's a very complex issue because
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of police officers that have dealt with things that normal people would never have to deal with. and they're processing that information and they're still doing the best they can to support people. There are also some that will fuck things up and completely, you know, break their responsibilities or the code of conduct or what have you. It's a very complex issue. You can't dissolve into if you're a bastard, you're a cop, or vice versa. But that being said, that's a terrifying fucking job to be in. And when they're dealing with people that could have weapons, even just knife crime, when you look at it that way, like seeing someone wielding a knife and like they're in a visual distress kind of mode where they're in psychosis, they're not consciously there, but they're just kind of like panicked and like, that's a scary fucking thing to deal with. But that being said, I don't know why so many police officers shoot and kill people in my country. That's the one thing that sticks in my stomach where I'm like, something doesn't feel right there, because the amount of deaths seems really high. And I just don't know why they would go with that when there's their whole Batman utility belt of like pepper spray and taser gear, and like they're trained in taking people down physically. Like I've seen some of the police officers training, and like they know their shit. They can get you on the ground and fucking, you know, take care of that shit. But so many of them just shoot, and it's that just doesn't seem right. There should not be an executioner involved. We're still debating as a country on whether or not you know, the death sentence should be a thing. And that's I'm rambling now. But yeah, cops are weird, man.
So
there's a lot of shit going on.
a few videos where I saw like cops shooting people. One of them, there was an old white guy. I don't know what he probably was trying to escape from the police, and then he sat at some place and he said they told him to raise his hands, and he said, "Fuck you, you know, I'm not raising my hands. Shoot me if you want." And then he pretended to put his hand inside his pants only, and then they
like his
shot
front
him.
pocket.
Yeah. No, inside his pants, like reaching for his panties or something, you know, inside his jeans,
okay.
and then they just shot him. And then there was
That
another
seems
one.
so dumb to me. Like I don't know why they would,
Like,
and it's tough to tell from just
Yeah.
this, but
In Turkey, they wouldn't do that because of the experience, you know, because probably like in USA, many people, like if you have a shootout in Turkey, if you see a shootout, we would say, oh, they changed this place to Texas, or this place became Texas. So you're literally living in Texas, or
Yeah,
places like that. So
and
I
it's
can,
crazy.
I can
I've been
understand.
in areas where there have been active shooters. Like when I was in Denver, I remember I was working at a job and we were on the 8th floor of a building, and I was a team lead, so it's like an assistant supervisor type of thing. And I remember my boss's boss came up and said, "Hey, keep an eye out on the road. You know, the trains, kind of like what we were talking about earlier. This is that same job. The trains would go to the complex I was working at. He's like, keep an eye out on the trains and see if there's anybody with a gun and a tactical vest, because they reported an active shooter at the university that's like 2 stops down the rail line, and they haven't got him in custody yet. They think he may have gotten on a train." So I had to sit there in this otherwise comfy office building, looking down for an active shooter to see if somebody with a weapon was going to get off the metro line to go and shoot up a building. Shit's crazy over here.
Yeah.
Thankfully, they didn't show up, but like, I don't know what I would have done if they had.
So I think it's probably because cops are more on the edge. They're, you know, in USA compared to Turkey.
They're more old age.
No, on the edge. They're
I
more.
mean, median age for cops around here seem to be in their 30s and 40s.
No. I'm not saying age. On the edge.
Oh, on edge.
On
Yeah,
edge.
yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what about school shooters? Like, that's another thing we wouldn't be. And we were just really glad we were back, because, like, I was thinking, if I would have a child in USA, would I even be able to send my child to the school? Because, like, it's one of the very dangerous places. What do you think
Yeah, and
about
it's
the school
freaky to
shooters?
think that. Yeah, well, I mean,
Why do you have so much in USA? Why do you think you have so much in USA?
I have no idea, but I know that the problem that we're trying to solve is not being solved effectively. Like when the school shooting thing started to happen with more regularity, they just started to brand bulletproof backpacks. Like that tells you a lot of what's wrong with our country. Is like they were like,
And
this is a
give
money
guns to the
opportunity.
teachers also. Give guns to the teachers.
Yeah, they're just like, let's escalate this further. Like, we'll get the teachers to do it. Meanwhile, we're underpaying teachers and overcrowding schools. So now you've got somebody that isn't paid enough to just talk to children and deal with them all day, but they're being forced to also be the security force with weapons. Like, that's not a responsibility any teacher should have to take. But I think that as a country, we don't de-escalate problems and we don't confront them intelligently, because we claim, depending on what hour of the day, they're going to claim that either we have a gun problem or a mental health problem. I think we have both. And I think that we're not treating either with the proper respect, um, because they don't want to help people with mental health issues. They want them out of sight,
Yeah.
right? That's where you get a lot of homeless population as well, as people that cannot cope with working and maintaining their lives, and they're dealing with psychosis and a lot of issues, sometimes schizophrenia, other developmental issues as well that prevent them from going into work, and maybe they don't have the support structure to get on disability or family to help them with that as well. So we just push them to the side and we deny that it's a thing, right? That's kind of how we've been treating a lot of this. And because of the mass availability of weapons and that we're not treating these mental issues, people are getting nuts
I
over
was actually
here
going
and
to ask.
deciding to,
I was
yeah,
actually
like
going to ask.
they're going crazy with that.
So they have that debate, left versus right. One side is saying it's because of the violent video games. The other side is saying it's because of gun. Yeah, we need more gun control. So which side do you think is correct?
Why does it only have to be one?
Yeah.
Why couldn't it be both? Like, couldn't you control weapons as well as video games? Like, test it. You know what I mean? Like, I like video games, sure. Maybe a 14-year-old shouldn't be able to do some horribleness in a video game that's going to influence them. That's not for me to say. I don't have any fucking kids. Like, I think that it should be something that's a discussion and a study done in a way that can find out if that's going to have the right amount of influence. Right now, all that we're doing is arguing and saying that it's one thing or the other instead of taking action first to protect the people now and then figuring out a better solution in the long term. They're just griping, really. And it's like, okay, well, if you don't take action on either side of it, you still get more school shooters. And you've just given up in argument, like it's, we're not doing things well over here. And politically, I've noticed that it's that argument of left versus right, of conservative versus
Yeah.
liberal, that it's not getting shit done anymore. It's just political football. They're just griping at each other and they're defining their political goals by pissing off the other guy. They're
Unfortunately, in
saying
Turkey it became like that.
it sucks, right?
Yeah.
Because you're just like, I don't fucking care which one of you bastards gets elected, but do your fucking job when you're there.
Yeah.
Like, get it done. Like, protect people and take care of most people. What we do politically is we elect whoever pissed off people the longest back. Like whoever is the not most recent, color that pissed you off.
Yeah.
And they all give the wealthy tax cuts. And that's it. Like
Yeah.
that's what they really want to fucking do. And I'm so sick to death of it because things continue to get worse, and it's a real bummer, because there's a big possibility that we could be doing way better if we made different choices. But a lot of our country is run by people in their 60s and 70s that have been going for fucking 20 years and still think that a banana costs a nickel and the internet is 56K. Like, there's not a lot of current perspectives in our leadership right now, and it sucks because they're just dug in like ticks.
So in my opinion, because I also experienced living in USA, it's both of them. The video games, like I would never say, because I always played video games and I never felt violent or something. But when I came and when I actually saw the kids, I changed my mind. So it's, yeah, gun control, video games, and many other things actually. Like
Yeah.
bullying, nobody does anything about bullying, isolation, mental illness, so many things, like maybe 4 or 5 reasons for example, I would see a kid, let's say, he has some mental issues, or maybe he's a little spoiled, let's say, not too much. But of course, when he goes to school, the other kids start bullying him because he's acting weird, because he was like
Yeah,
in
he's an
isolation.
outcast.
Yeah, he was
Yeah.
in isolation. So because of that, he's acting weird. So the others start bullying him. Of course, he likes those violent video games, and I saw so many times the kids, for example, elementary school kids, talking about like shooting people, like they're saying this gun is better. Of course, they know from video games that gun is better. They think, and they're so isolated. That's their life. And if they were able to find gun very easy, which they can because it's USA, it's
Yeah.
really interesting. Like for example, I would pass by a store. It was saying like the most American store probably. It was saying guns, diamonds, music. So you can just enter a convenience store and I don't know, buy a gun or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
kids
wow.
wouldn't be able, in my experience
No,
anyway, they wouldn't be
kids wouldn't,
able.
but
Yeah,
they would find
but adults
find.
could. Yeah, there's access. There's also gun shows too. Like, I would think that somebody, even a teenager that was like in the hunting community, that
Yeah,
was into rifles and shotguns and deer hunting, that kind of thing, they would definitely have a lot of access to
yeah,
weapons. But I'm with you, right? So in your example, you have an outcast that's socially isolated, and they don't have the coping mechanisms to socialize, to get into a, a social rhythm, right? To make friends or to diffuse the bullying or confront it in a way that's healthy. And they just get compressed into this ball of stress of like, well, I've got no one to help me out, no way to diffuse this tension, so
and
I'm going to go further
they
into
don't do
video
anything about the
games.
bullying either. The school doesn't do
No.
anything about
Well,
the bullying either.
so here's the thing, because I mean, as a kid, I was bullied in school. Not the whole time, thankfully, but enough to where I know what that feels like. If you fight a bully with violence, right, without going to the full school shooter thing, and you just get into a fist fight, or otherwise, you know, instigate a fight, how you want to view that. I mean, if you just kind of get the bully to where they're going to fight, you're both punished. So now when you're defending yourself from something that I feel like a teacher or someone of responsibility should have been there to go and correct and say like, "Hey, don't pick on that fucking kid." Like don't do it. That's not what you're supposed to do here. Because that didn't happen, the victim and the bully get punished as in the same way, right? The person that has been harassed for sometimes weeks or months finally gets that spine to stand up and go like, "No, I'm not going to fucking deal with this anymore." Then the system bullies them.
Yeah.
Now the system says you're not allowed to stand up for yourself. And they then realize they have nowhere to turn. They can't trust the system to protect them. They can't protect themselves. Their parents aren't available to protect them. They don't have friends to protect them. So now it actually gets worse sometimes. So you're not wrong. There's a lot of different angles and a lot of different things that are all simultaneously being ignored.
Yeah.
But we got bulletproof backpacks. So yeah, I really hope that people that are sending their kids to school understand that there's a lot of change that's needed.
Yeah.
And I also really don't like the blame shifting that goes on. They go, "Oh, well, it's not the kid's fault. It's the parents' fault because the kid shouldn't have access to guns, shouldn't have access to video games. It's the parents' fault." Well, maybe it's not the parents' fault because we're in a horrible economy right now that the parents can't parent the same effective way because they're no longer in a stay-at-home parent world. You don't have a parent figure that can guide at home. You've got a bunch of latchkey kids, kids that have to come home to a house that's empty for an hour or two to do homework until their parent comes home exhausted. Like there's a lot of complexities and a lot of things to confront, and it's pretty fucked up all over the place for various reasons. But what's most frustrating is that we aren't yet trying to do anything. And the most action that's been taken was for a means of getting money from school shootings with like seriously bulletproof backpacks. If it saves lives, great. It shouldn't be needed in the first place.
Yeah.
But that was a disgusting moment to see. That's like making a ballistic fucking sandbox for kindergartners.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like our Kevlar wrapped sandbox will make sure that your 0 to 5-year-old kids are good in the incident of a mass shooting. Like they could just duck underneath and still play with their dinosaurs. That is fucking dark. and it shouldn't be that way.
I was seeing
But
sometimes.
that's where we're at.
I was seeing sometimes like in high schools, it's like airports.
Hmm.
Probably not all the high schools are like that, right? Like
Well, I'm not sure
airports,
what you mean. Where it has like
airports like
channels with classes?
no, like airports. For example, you put your backpack in it, and it passes from the X-ray, and you need to pass from X-ray. I was seeing
Oh, well, I mean,
probably not all high
my
schools.
perspective is so dated, buddy. Like I haven't been to a high school in fuck almost 20 years now, bud. Like I haven't had any reason to go. Like I don't know. I know some high schools have shown that way. Like inner city high schools have had metal detectors for a long time. People were of the mind that it was gangland type of shit, which is a
Mhm.
whole nother fucked up perspective. But I don't know that they do X-ray scanning on equipment. What I've heard is that some schools do clear backpacks, like it's clear plastic that you can see through, so you
Wow.
can visually see the contents. And these are the same schools that when COVID happened, um, people couldn't work the fucking digital thermometers to figure out if people were having a fever. So you can imagine that there's a massive shortage of people that would know what to do with that equipment as well. So
Yeah,
I don't think that they have metal detectors at most schools. Maybe it's some, but it's not something I know a lot about.
that would be too expensive probably.
Yeah, it's a lot cheaper to just give teachers
Yeah,
pistols.
yeah. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, no, they're fucked up, man.
just give them assault rifles.
Yeah, it'll be super easy. We've got that laying around. I know. We'll make a bulletproof vest out of guns, so that way when you're bleeding, you could just
Yeah.
lean forward and shoot. Yeah, that'd be great.
No, the uniforms. The uniforms can be
There you go.
bulletproof.
Yeah, that'd be great actually. It's dark, man, because when I was just getting into high school, my freshman year was 1999, so that was around the time of the Columbine shooting. So
Hmm.
for me, I was going into high school as school shootings were not nearly as often as now. But back in my day, there was only one or two school shootings, and now it's fucking nuts. Because back then, I remember us thinking, oh my God, this isolated incident
Hmm.
is the cause of these two specific people being specifically fucked up their way. And we're starting to see that that's not the case. It's similar to um, what's the best parallel? There was a serial killer mania back in like the 70s, I believe, where you had a few different ones, like the Zodiac Killer,
Hmm.
and you're familiar with what I'm talking about. Like you
Yeah,
had a
yeah,
couple of different
yeah.
ones, yeah. And it was because people were
Ted Bundy,
pursuing the idea of fame. Ted Bundy was another good one, and
Dahmer,
I think BTK was then as well. Like there was a bunch of them, right? A
Dahmer, I
whole
think.
pile of them. Who's that?
Dahmer, Dahmer.
Yeah, Jeffrey Dahmer. Yeah, that was
I
yeah,
think
yeah. He's
that
getting
name.
all the press right now too.
Yeah,
But like it was all a similar pattern that we're seeing with school and mass shooters here in this country, where people that are frustrated with their life have mental illness problems, uh, that don't feel like they're ever going to make a mark on the world decide that they're going to make history and
yeah,
put their faces in the newspaper or whatever by being a part of the already toxic 24-hour news cycle.
yeah.
Because what do? They show the person's face all day, every day. They interview the family. They interview the fucking neighbors. They interview the postman.
They became
What
someone.
can you tell about it? Yeah, they became someone. And it's always the same thing of just, oh, well, they seem so quiet and they helped me with my groceries and they did their taxes. And you'd never believe someone with khakis would murder 50 fucking people, but they did. And it just keeps repeating over and
Well,
over
it's
again. And I
always that
believe
type of people anyway. It's not the bullies or something who would do school
it
shooting.
is. It's the quiet ones, right?
Yeah,
And that's what bums me out because I'm generally a quiet person that keeps to myself. My poor neighbors are probably terrified.
yeah,
But like when you get to where that gets publicized as much, and I think the news has been making some strides. I don't think they've fetishized people as much as they used to. They're actually recognizing that a lot of attackers are trying to get that fame, and they're taking steps from bringing them up and putting them on that style pedestal. So that's at least something that's happening. It seems to be similar too, and it. I'm not gonna say social media is making it much worse, but social media is not helping it very much
yeah.
because you get people that are advertising that on Twitter or on Instagram, and they're saying stuff like "Don't go to school" or blah blah blah, and it's like, what are we doing? like what's really happening here. It's all just gotten amplified a lot in the last, I don't know, 10 or 15 years, but it's been a problem for a long time before that.
Do you know what I
Um,
was doing as a job in USA?
no,
I was actually a teacher
what were you teaching?
in an after-school program. So I was in Seattle, in Bellevue to be more specific. You know the
But what
Microsoft.
subject?
So after school, I was an after-school teacher. So you know that there is the Microsoft, how do you say, Microsoft building in there.
Yeah.
Of course, the parents, mostly Indians and Asians, they would bring their kids to our place, like after the school. For example, so whatever subject, I would teach them, elementary school to elementary school kids. I would help with their homeworks, and for example, in one day of the week, we would have science experiments. Another day, I would teach
Oh,
them Aikido. In another day, I would teach them soccer because apparently nobody knows soccer in USA except girls, of
yeah.
course. Girls know
It
it,
doesn't happen a lot. Yeah.
and uh, in every day chess. I was teaching chess to the kids,
Oh, that's
and
funny. Okay.
before that, for a few hours, I would give them tests, or I would help them with their homeworks. So it was like that. It was for people, for mostly Indians, Asians, who are not satisfied with the education system because they think that it's too easy, and
Yeah.
they want to surpass them. And when I was living there, I could see why Indians are taking over the place, because they're so hardworking, academically.
I
That's
would
their
argue
thing.
that well, I think a lot of people that have immigrated into this country have that drive to get a
Yeah,
better life because
yeah,
otherwise, why would you immigrate, right? I mean, I think that immigrants for a lot of Americans, especially here in the South, like Southern Americans, are very conservative and they're very like America type of stuff. They have a very bad perspective, in my opinion, on immigrant culture because they believe that immigrants are just taking over everything, like they're taking their jobs or whatever. And the truth is that, well, my perspective on it is that immigrants, when they come to this country, are driven to find success because they don't fucking want to go back. They don't want to go back to wherever they've just left. They're here to establish that new life. They're here to give a good life to their kids, to work for a good life for their kids, and to take every advantage the way that they should, to pursue those and to develop not only their own skills but their business acumen, their kids' lives. And the I've met three or four second generation children, that they're the children of immigrants that just come over to this country, and those poor kids are worked to death. Like their parents are very very driven, and they tend to describe their parental figures as um, like driving forces behind their success. Right? They're going, you have to be a doctor, you have to be a lawyer, you have
hmm
to exceed everything. And I agree with you that I don't know if I agree that it's Indian and Asian kids specifically, but the immigrant families that I have met, they are tenacious about going, I'm not going to allow you to have a poor life. I'm not going to allow you to have these
hmm
decisions to negatively impact the life that I've worked so hard for. And there's downsides to that too.
Sure.
Some of those kids could be doing other things that are more fulfilling and help them self actualize. And they have their own stress,
Yeah.
from dealing with their workloads and their families. But they're absolutely working their asses off to get to a really good future. It's nuts.
So I don't know if you know about the policies for green card lottery. So like
No, I'm not familiar.
for Americans, of course, they never had the lottery. They may think that, oh, they're just taking like 50,000 random people outside USA every year, 55,000. But it's actually their policy is so good, they're choosing best of the best. I really wish Turkey had this policy also. They're really choosing best of the best. At least they're making sure it won't be freeloaders. It won't definitely be because they make you sign papers. They ask for your diplomas. They ask for your like how much money you have.
Well, we can't accept freeloaders because that's the American way. Like we are the freeloaders. Like that's the truth of it. Like I'm sorry to say, but if we weren't so fucking fat that we needed scooters to shop for our fatty foods, then we could maybe be enthused. But it's what happens, man.
Something amazing I saw in USA. I don't know if
Yep.
you saw, maybe you saw it, probably you saw it. So they have beauty parlors, beauty parlors for dolls. Did you see that?
For dolls?
Yeah, in a shopping mall.
No, but I'm sadly not surprised because there's industries for fucking everything over here. It's nuts to me. Really? For dolls?
I
Oh,
saw,
wow.
and it's bigger than a regular beauty parlor. Very interesting. It's like in a
Is
shopping
it
mall,
really? I
and I
bet they
was
pay
like,
their stylists more than regular stylists.
yeah, definitely. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, that's USA. And I took a
Yeah,
photo,
there's
and shared it. USA.
oh
In a
man. No,
nutshell.
I haven't seen that, but like I can totally believe it. Like this is an insane country in a lot of ways. Like the if there's someone to pay for it, they will find a way to make a business around it. I mean, there's dog yoga where people bring their pets to yoga class with them to and they try and get the dogs to do yoga as well. And it's
Yeah.
like these dogs are working on sit and lay down. Don't let them do fucking downward dog and the child's pose and all that. Like ah, so dumb.
So,
And there's also a lot of like fake industries as well where you get like crystal healing. I
yeah,
might
yeah, of
insult some
course.
people on this, like but we're on the level secularly, I
Yeah, yeah.
think. And while I'm
We're
not
smart
arrogant
here.
enough,
We're all smart here. Don't worry.
there we go, cool. And I mean, I'm not arrogant enough to say that I know everything about the universe and everything that works and doesn't work, but crystal healing doesn't get it doesn't offer enough proof for me to believe in it.
So,
Same thing with homeopathic medicine, where they're just
mhm.
like, I put this single mint leaf into 5 gallons of water, and it's now going to heal your cancer.
So that
Shit's
that
crazy.
that's say that those industries they still work because of the single fact that most of the time,
Placebo, you know.
yeah, most of the time, if you believe it's good for you, most of the time, unfortunately, it is good for you because they say,
Well, I
"Oh, I
mean, could
use
you
this
then argue that
crystal
they're
healing."
selling belief? They're just
Yeah,
using
yeah,
crystal as a medium,
like
like
religion,
that legitimizes a lot.
like
Yeah. Oh
prayer.
God, yeah. That's a huge industry too. My
Yeah.
goodness. But yeah, there's just so much out there, and it's like I'm trying to stay open minded, especially because I mean I'm getting close to 40. Like I want to make sure that I'm not shutting down yet. Like when I get to my 70s, I'll be totally ignorant if I get that far. Like it'll be fun. But for now, I'm trying to stay open and go like, okay, well, I've I've put my foot in my mouth before. I've been an ignorant asshole about things in my own past. Let me just try to be more accepting as I go, but I can't get past some of the things that just seem like straight up con jobs.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of those around there. And like a doll stylist station seems so privileged, so unnecessary,
So American.
and so American. Yes, it seems very American. And that's also what
Golf
really
courses.
golf courses too,
Yeah,
yeah. And
very
you have
American.
such a large amount of space that takes so much money to maintain, like the amount of turf that gets cared for, like layers of sand and clay,
Yeah,
and like it's a whole science.
yeah.
And I look at this kind of stuff and I'm like, we've got people that are homeless, that are starving, that are, going mad, and all we can think to do is golf courses and parking lots and like why? Like none of it fucking makes sense. It's nuts.
Going to USA and seeing those things. Okay, I'm not a communist. I've never been a communist, but
Okay.
you see so much capitalism. As a defense, you're becoming a little communist because
Oh yeah.
the thing you say, there are
It's
so many.
overwhelming.
The thing you say, there are so many people, homeless people, and on the other side, people are playing golf in there. That's like,
Oh
wow,
yeah.
that's really interesting.
Well, see, what pushed me over the edge was I was trying to just go camping once here in South Carolina, and I didn't realize that the campsite that I was going to was across the fucking lake from a golf course. So I'm there. I've hiked 2.5 miles into the woods onto this little peninsula that went out into the water, and I've gotten sweaty. I've set up my hammock. I've got my firewood, and I'm ready for like 2 days of relaxation, and all I could fucking hear was the maintenance crew working on the golf course for the first 8 hours of my first day there. and I was pissed off, and I just couldn't believe it. And and it's funny too, talking about communism. What our country is dealing with right now is anything that seems like it's for the greater benefit of like most people,
It's
typically
communist.
people that are in need, is communist. And it's like, no, that's
Commies.
humanitarian.
Yeah.
Like, it's not communist to say that maybe more people shouldn't die on the streets frozen to death this winter. It's crazy to think, but we've become such an extreme capitalistic society over here that anything that doesn't follow that extremism of profit is seen as extremist, and I just don't like it. It's a really big bummer.
So that was another thing actually. Of course, I mean, in Turkey they also say Turkey is capitalistic, but of course when I went to USA is like the god tier of capitalism. Of course, when you were born
It's
here,
insane.
when you were born in USA, you probably don't realize it. But like when we were entering, there is there's always an occasion. There's Halloween. If there's Halloween, you enter all the stores. It's Halloween.
Yeah.
And then there's Valentine, Christmas, everywhere Christmas. And then Valentine's Day, everywhere Valentine's Day. They
yeah.
just don't let you breathe, you know? You
Not
go
at
to,
all.
You go to car, even a car seller, for example. You go to a car seller, like Valentine's Day discounts. And they put
Yeah.
hearts everywhere, you know? Decorations, hearts. I was thinking, I mean, otherwise, I was alone, just with my wife. We didn't have any other friends and we didn't have activities. I was thinking, if we don't have these things, life would be so boring. That's why people are creating these special days, you know, to put some artificial meaning to their lives, I guess. I mean, that's what I was
Maybe,
thinking.
and I just it's branding. Really, it's just a theme to try and sell more stuff. Because for me, the the big thing is Black Friday. Have you heard of Black Friday?
Yeah.
So
Uh,
Black Friday has become basically just like a cult day
I'll
here
say
in
something
America.
funny about it also. I'll
Oh,
write it
sure,
here.
yeah. I mean, I have never enjoyed going to any Black Friday. I went to one. And I want to say this was maybe 2007 or 2008, where I was like, I want to go to Best Buy and just watch. I just want to people watch. I want to stand in line. I want to get there at 6 in the morning and just see what the fuck everybody is hyped up about, because you'd swear these people were getting laid in the fucking storefront or something. Like, way too many people waiting outside. People have been waiting since 3 or 4 in the morning, right? They have a little tent set up at the front. You see a lot of this at like iPhone events and stuff too. And I went in, and it took 6 hours to get through the line. Like, the line was snaking through the entire store. The discounts weren't even that fucking good, but people were so frothy about saving a little bit of money on a flat screen TV at that stage. And
You should already
it's
have
now just
probably.
become, well, I mean, now TVs are so damn cheap. But I mean, looking back at it, like, now my tradition is just watching YouTube clips of people being trampled at Black Friday or fighting over products or whatever. And I look at this and I go, from the one time that I did go, I go, considering it took me, you know, multiple hours waiting in line in the morning, in the cold, in November, right after Thanksgiving, and then it took multiple hours for me to check out just to get my stuff out of the door, to have the privilege of paying them. When you think about your hourly rate as an employee in terms of what time you lost in that retail environment,
Yeah.
you've actually paid more of your own life and your own time to get a discount on a keyboard or whatever it was. And it's so stupid watching people fight over SD cards or whatever the new shit is, whatever the Tickle Me Elmo of this year will be. But that to me illustrates a lot of why, or a lot of what's alarming to me, at least living these days in the USA, is that everything's for sale and everybody's underpaid, so we're all desperate for everything.
Yeah.
It's really creepy.
It's like that line from Fight Club. They make you do jobs which you don't want to buy stuff which you don't need.
To buy shit you don't need. Yes, that's for being a villain. Tyler Durden had some stuff really made sense.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So in Black Friday, they wanted to do it in Turkey also, but of course,
Yeah.
for the Muslims, Friday is a holy day. So when they literally
nice.
when they literally converted to Black Friday, is like saying Dark Friday, you know.
Yeah.
And of course, all the Muslims got not all the Muslims, but the conservative ones. They got so pissed, they started attacking the stores. How come you call the Friday dark?
Yeah, that makes total sense,
Friday is the
actually.
brightest day. How can they,
Yeah, that's when you're worshiping your God,
yeah,
right? I mean, you get to a stage where you're like, wow, that's funny.
and they changed the names to like Super Friday. Of course, every store is doing it different now.
Sure.
One of them is doing Super Friday. Another, there are even stores which do it Holy Friday. You know,
Really? Oh,
because
that's funny.
I was saying just change it to Holy Friday. Everybody will come, and they actually, of course, they didn't listen to me, but they actually did that.
Oh, sure. And I mean, now we even have offshoots where it's like Cyber Monday or whatever on like online sites, and it's just another fucking day, and it's not even sales. You know, like sometimes they'll say like, oh, well, regular price is $500, you get it for 250, whereas the week before they're selling it for two hundred and seventy
Of
five
course,
dollars.
of
You
course.
know, like there's so much shady shit that goes on around price points these days.
If
And I
you
think this year, you know, because of inflation, at least in my country, people will hopefully slow the fuck down. That'd be nice.
if you compare the prices uh, in like different size of the same thing,
Yeah,
for example, one of them would say $250, the other one would say 350, and then they cross it 250. Another would say
yeah,
500 and then cross it 250. It's not like it went down. It was
yeah,
always
not at
like that. It
all.
was always
They just
250 in
raised
ever.
their price and then tried to make you feel better about it. Oh yeah, that happens all the time. And I mean, these days, even in grocery stores, you get that too, where they go like, "Oh well, you can get you know, two for $5," and they're like, "Well, what's the price of one of them? 250." Like, okay,
Yeah,
I'll
I
just
saw it
get one
actually.
of them. I only need one.
And I even saw once the other way. For example, one is like $2.50, but if you buy two, it's like $6.
Yeah, like there's a lot of
Why
stuff that
would they
goes
do
on, and
that?
like they just because they found out that people when they see the yellow sales tags
Yeah,
are more inclined to buy. So all they did was they doubled down into the tags. Like you're not actually getting discounts for these things. You're
yeah.
just being guided to them. And the amount of science that's been poured into salesmanship in this country is stupid insane. I really get very sad sometimes when I think about how much brain power as a society we've put towards utterly stupid shit. And you look at it and you're like, you know, it's different than back in like the 30s and 40s where like the greatest minds in the world were, you know, like Einstein and like back to the just the greats of science. And they were like, okay, well, we're going to do real stuff. We're going to find new elements for the periodic table. We're going to figure out the nature of the universe. We're going to work out relativity, or we're going to work on a new philosophical precept that is going to help us understand why we're here and why the world's important. Now we go with ways to keep your dick hard and your hair fuzzy. That's where we've ended up as a society. And it sucks because there's so much more that could have been done, but we just got diverted by profits.
Yeah,
And that's a really big bummer for me.
yeah. So for 2 minutes, I'm going to bathroom. When I'm back, I'm going to ask you a very big question.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just gonna look to the chat right now and see if there's anything I can answer there. So have fun. Let's see. And guys, forgive me if I am terrible with pronunciation. I'm just another ignorant American. So I'm just gonna scroll up into some of the chat here and see what we have. Emre of Alola. It still surprises me to see people acting like cavemen when it's Black Friday. Yeah, and I'm there with you as well. It's not that inconvenient to just buy regular stuff at regular prices. That's why Black Friday doesn't make any sense to me, frankly. It just it doesn't seem to be what people imagine it is, and it's just become a branding point, you know. Um, let's see what we have here. And why Black Friday specifically, I really don't know either. I never really thought to find out. Can you ask if I've been in Miami? Well, I did go to Miami once. Yes, I went there for a football game when I was younger. My stepdad took me there to see a football game for the New England Patriots versus the Miami Dolphins. I think the Patriots won. I'm not a huge sports fan, so I can't remember all the details of the play-by-play. But Miami was a huge city. I didn't get to do much exploring because I was a young person at that time. But from what I've heard, Miami is a pretty intense spot. Actually, yeah. I went to high school just a little ways north of Miami in an area called West Palm Beach in Martin County, Florida. So that whole part of Southeast Florida is actually really rich. You don't
I
agree
am
that
back.
while
I
Einstein was
cannot hear you,
living, the
but
whole world was
you
in a
probably
war?
can hear me.
Oh, well, yeah, the world was in a war, but honestly, you're talking to an American. We've had war more often than not. What's up? Welcome back.
Hello.
Hey, we were talking about Miami and war and um, Black Friday. Let's see. If it's not too personal, what do I do for a living other than YouTube? I work from home as a technical consultant on a live streaming service, if you can believe it. I don't want to go too far into detail or whatnot, just because I keep a pretty big privacy between YouTube and my professional life. But basically, my job is to troubleshoot live broadcast feeds, and to make sure everything works. It's been pretty nice. I've been doing it for about 5 or 6 weeks now, but I just do techie stuff.
Talking about the job,
Yeah,
I forgot to tell you. For example,
sure.
in here, again in Alsancak, there are many English courses, and you just since it's Turkey, you just need to be like a native speaker, and they'll just give you a job. And
Oh, for English. Oh,
yeah,
nice.
because I literally have friends who work there, and they don't have any certificate. They just work because it's their native language.
Well,
And
given how much of a junk drawer the English language is, I can see why that would be needed. It's a very screwed up system.
yeah, so for example, you can choose how many lessons you want to teach.
Hmm.
So you can make it a part-time job, you can make it a full-time job. It's nice actually.
Oh
So
wow. Yeah,
uh,
I've had some friends that it's usually called ESL, English as a Second Language.
mhm.
I've had some friends over in Taiwan, as well as I believe Singapore. Yeah, a few different locations where they were just like, yeah, you can come over here and whatnot, and teach that as a second language. And I've given it some thought as well. I mean, it may be something I choose to go into.
if
The,
you
the
would live,
benefit of not having kids is that
yeah,
I can pretty much pull up roots whenever.
if you would live in another country, you would definitely be able to teach. Of course, if the country's language is not English, wherever you go, if you are a native speaker, you will definitely find a job probably teaching English.
That would work. Yeah, I'd have to learn
Mhm.
obviously the language of whatever the native culture
So of
is
course it
in
can
that
be
given
a
region. But
part-time job. You can still be able to do your job and then do the part-time job, continue both of them, which is really
oh,
nice.
sure. Yeah.
So
So
my
what was your big question?
my big question is I was going to ask it, but then we digressed. So
That's what we do.
there are many people who are fans of the Columbine shooters. You know about those, right?
Oh, yeah.
So
I can't remember their names, but I know who you're talking about.
so what do you think about that? Like, why is it because like they were also bullied and they fantasize doing the same thing? That's why they see the Columbine shooters as heroes?
Oh, so you're asking what are my perspectives on the fans of the
Yeah,
Columbine
yeah.
shooters, or oh,
Why
okay.
do you think there are fans? I mean,
I think I agree with what you're talking about as far as them being outcasts. I think that some people we're also seeing a weird uptick in people that are fetishizing Jeffrey Dahmer in a really fucking creepy way. Like I don't know if it's on the same level as the Columbine
I mean, if I were a
shooters.
cannibal, I would definitely. If I were a
I
cannibal,
think
I
that
would
there are
definitely
more
say
interesting
Dahmer
cannibals than
as my.
Jeffrey Dahmer. Like honestly, like he was a sad cannibal. He was in the 70s and he had just a little one bedroom apartment with an acid fucking, tub. I think if you were gonna go with a cannibal, you'd want somebody that was more of like a successful cannibal, wouldn't you? Like somebody who was living a very, very rich life. I'm sure there's got to be someone like that.
But
But
like, mhm.
Well, I was gonna say on the school shooters things, I agree with you in that they're most likely outcasts that saw the shooters as more of a revenge hero of some sort. If I were to guess, because I've seen some of those posts online, here and there, and I've kind of gotten morbidly curious of just like what's going on here. And I've seen other people get that way about other mass shooters for other reasons. Either they agree with the manifesto or whatever the stated purpose was going on, or whatever community unfortunately suffered for those moments. So, I mean, I think that there's some. I think it's all toxic for the most part. I think glorifying murder is a bad thing, but I think philosophically, you could also argue that there's a lot of glorification of murder that happens in regular parlance. So with the Russia-Ukraine war, what's disturbed me is going on to sites like Reddit and seeing footage of drone strikes dropping on soldiers. You know, which soldier? Some people ask. Like, are you talking about Russian soldiers? Or are you talking about Ukrainian soldiers? Doesn't matter to me. Like, I see poor people that are being forced to kill. That's what I see. None of the people in Russia, well, I can't say none. Probably most of the people in Russia that are going to the Ukrainian war most likely were conscripted or forced to go over there and otherwise don't have a choice in their life. The Ukrainians appear to be fighting for their homeland, their territory, that it's being invaded by Russian forces. They don't want to fight. They don't want to be shot at. They don't want missiles. Nobody wants to die. Very few people want to kill. When you're looking at this and you see the world that we're in, I think that death is being shown as a solution for people that don't understand how precious life is. As somebody that's depressed, it's a challenging thing for me to go, life is precious. But the truth is, it really is. Regardless of if it's treated you well or poorly, if you're alive, you have some opportunity to change it. Either how you view it, or the circumstances that you're living in, or you can meet someone that makes life worth living. That is something that can happen. If you're dead, to the best of my information available, you don't do much other than grow hair and nails for a little while and then, stop.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what you do when you're dead. But when it comes down to the Columbine shooter specifically, the thread seems to be more or less outcast, bullied types. And I was never a fan of the Columbine shooters, but I've considered myself an outcast for most of my life. And that's just because I was a homeschooled type of guy. I was very isolated socially from, my school and whatnot. So I'm living that hermit life. But I've known people that were not okay with being by themselves and thought that it was the rest of the world that was crazy and not them. And they get very they lash out a lot. They get victimized and they think that, the world owes them this idyllic idea of their own lives. They have an entitlement of, well, I should have all the girlfriends and,
So it's not just
I
bullying,
should have
actually.
the best friends. It's not without the bullying, but I think there's also perspectives.
I think it's both of them.
Yeah, I agree. I think that bullying exacerbates people's toxic perspectives, right? And maybe you could argue that they wouldn't be bullied if they weren't acting weird in a social environment. That's kind of true, but kind of not, right? Bullying is a choice. That's an action that you're taking, and you're not forced to bully someone. You can correct them without being an asshole about it or without harassing people over and over again about it. But I think that it's a multifaceted thing. It's not altogether the bully's fault alone, although I feel like they are an antagonist. But it's also the victim of bullying sometimes, not all the time, that has some responsibility for their behavior too. Ultimately, everybody's participating. It's just a matter of the more violent stuff being the most obvious thing to point to.
Yeah. So according to most bullies, of course, don't see themselves as bullies. And
Well, a lot of bullies are victimized in their private lives at
Yeah.
home. Like they're children of bullies.
so even if they're bullies, they choose the weirdest kid anyway.
Well, yeah, it's easy to pick on an outcast because they're not being defended by anybody else.
Yeah.
Because if they were if they were trying to bully somebody that was more popular than them, it wouldn't be considered bullying. It'd be just considering like arguing or having a squabble. at worst a gang fight or whatever, right, between cliques at school. So bullying, I think, implies the victimization of one person that, for whatever reason, is not able to fight back, or it doesn't have the same either social or physical attributes to be considered an equal in that arrangement.
The funny thing about this is, after cyberbullying came, now there's cyberbullying, and you see those people, and you realize that they are actually people who get bullied in real life. So the people who we see as victims, whenever they have some kind of a power, they go on and bullying others. So
happens
that's
a
really
lot,
interesting. That's
Well,
really
I think
interesting.
that how does the phrase go? It's power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So when you are a social outcast, you don't have the influence of pointing 10 or 20 people at your problem and going, you see this person, they're making fun of me. Since you guys like me and we're all similar, they're actually making fun of us. Go get them. Right? That's what happens with that social group. It isn't until you're in that place of influence that you understand how easy it is to accidentally direct that. Like when it comes down to internet stuff, you see it all the time with like people brigading on Twitch or on YouTube or whatever. Where they'll all just go and say like, oh, fuck you or whatever. Like me with Philip DeFranco back in the day. I did that shit. Like I was like, fuck it, I don't like this guy. I'm gonna just say fuck you and hope that people that are watching me go to his comments and say fuck you. It's gotten much worse, I think. Like there's people like I am so glad I don't remember these names because I haven't dabbled a lot in them. But there's like drama-based YouTubers. I think there's like the Drama Tube or something like that.
Are they new or old?
I mean, some of them are still going. There's a guy with a big beard. Fuck it, I don't know his name right now. But some people, their entire deal is just stirring shit and pointing out people that they feel are bad and that they want to have attacked. And I think that it's the old phrase, hurt people hurt people. I think that, in a perfect world, somebody that hasn't been hurt as much maybe doesn't feel the drive to hurt others or has different coping methods to deal with stress and not act out on other people for things that they're trying to process internally. But this all goes back to the mental health thing. I think that if people were taught more ways to cope with stressors, to deal with their emotions, to process them effectively and to logically pull them apart and understand why they're feeling frustrated or, angry or sad or whatever, and then work through those things, they maybe wouldn't need to be alone enough to get socially isolated and super weird, and become like the brony in science class that's posting some really weird shit and then getting bullied. The bully may not also be as inclined to lash out violently because they understand that while they're embarrassed for that person, they don't need to pick on them. They either have the choice of, hey, let me talk to you after this because shit's weird and you should know about it and I want to help you, or just leave them be. Like they don't even have to take positive action. They just have to not take violence as an action point. In any case, it's things that can be confronted with giving people tools, which is not a negative sum game. You don't lose anything by teaching people how to be better at being a person, how to be better at processing their emotions. They're going to have emotions their entire lives. They're going to have stress their entire lives from either their profession or their spouse or their living situation. So the more emotionally intelligent they get about working within their own brain, the better society as a whole gets. But we haven't found a way to profit share that, so bulletproof backpacks.
Yeah. You talked about being a hermit and being isolated.
Yeah.
Do you also see yourself as hermit right now or isolated?
I mean, kind of. I'm alone, but not really lonely. Like I tend to stay busy with my hobbies. And I right now have to do a lot of self-work. I got to go to the gym, work on myself. I'm doing hobbies for camping and bushcraft. Literally today I'm working on a leather bushcraft stool.
How is that going?
The stool or bushcraft?
No, the nature stuff. Because you
it's
are
going
going
okay,
trekking, camping.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the leather stuff, that's going okay. Like I've got the
Mm-hmm.
stool more or less done. That's what's the chaos right behind me. The camping stuff, it's on hold right now because
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting myself into better shape so that I can then go camping. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't really want to push it with 30 pounds on my back in wildery conditions when I'm huffing and puffing at the gym on a treadmill, like
Do you
on
go
a flat
alone?
plane. Yeah, generally.
Isn't it dangerous? I wouldn't go.
I mean, you can argue that anything is dangerous. Crossing the street is dangerous. If I go to kindergarten in the United States, it's dangerous. If I go to Black Friday, it's dangerous. The truth is, where I'm going tends to be like state parks, where there's not a lot of bears. I'm not going into like the back country where I'm hiking 10 or 15 miles away from any civilization or cell phone towers. For the most part, when I'm going on hikes or when I'm going camping, I'm pretty much within a whistle blow of people being able to hear me,
Mm-hmm.
like in a little emergency whistle or something. So I do take precautions, and I do have like, a topographical map. I always take that so that I can navigate my way back to a road or to civilization if I get lost. I do let people know where I'm going and when I'm supposed to be back. So if I don't make that check-in time, they're going to be concerned. So there are precautions that you can take. It's not without danger, but it's not as dangerous as true
Mm-hmm.
backpacking and the really hairy stuff. I'm at least a year away from doing that. Like I got a long ways to go.
It's very interesting because I see actually many people like that, prefer that. I mean, prefer going alone. Prefer mountaining, trekking.
It's okay. I mean, there's
For me,
pluses
it's
and
the other way.
minuses to any of it.
I mean, I
Yeah,
will
I
be
mean,
bored so much, but there are many people who prefer that. They say, no, you know what, I just want to rest my mind.
that's a big part of it. So there's pluses and minuses to group camping and solo camping. So as far as I can tell, for me, what I enjoy about solo camping is that I don't have anybody else to lean on. So the negatives, I guess I would say, is everything has to be carried on my back. So my food, my water filter, blah blah blah, like all the gear. And when I get out there, I'm the one that has to prep the water for the camp. I have to get the firewood going. I have to set up my shelter. All the camp prep, all that stuff. But for somebody like me that enjoys doing that and learning new ways to get that done effectively and different tactics, for like making fire and organizing things and like making it very comfortable, that is the fun of it. It's not
Mm-hmm.
just walking in the woods is fun. It's the camp skills is part of what's entertaining for me. So let's talk about the other side, right? Group camping. So let's say I get group camping together and you've got a couple of different group dynamics. You've got the non-camper group, right? They just want to go out and drink in the woods, in which case they're not going to be prepared. They're now not going to probably have their own gear. If they have their own gear, they may not want to carry all this stuff, right? You've got a big group together. You're probably going to want to bring in more food or supplies, cooking stuff at minimum, right? You got to get your pots and pans, your plates, all that other
Mm-hmm.
stuff. So there's more complications. So it's more of a liability. Anybody that's camped with somebody that doesn't know how to camp knows how much of a pain in the ass that is because you're carrying more weight. You're hoping to God they don't sprain their ankle because if they do, you're carrying them. And sometimes you get people out there that just suck. Camping's not for them. They don't want anything to do with it, and they are going to bitch and whine their whole way
Of course.
through 2 days in the woods with you because they didn't bring bug spray, they didn't bring anything that they need, but it's your fault and you're going to hear about it. Like that's what happens not a lot of time because also the responsibility is on you. Like you've got to tell people, okay, here's what we're going out here to do. If you really don't want to do this, you got to let me know. And they need to understand what that is. But for some people, they don't have enough context to know, hey, we're going to be sweating our ass off for about 5 or 6 hours of hiking to get to a spot where we're going to lay on the ground to go to sleep. Like, and there's going to be bugs. Like if you're not aware of that and if you don't know how to prepare for it and if you're not willing to give up the comforts of being in an air conditioned house in society with DoorDash bringing you like greasy foods, then you're going to have a really shit time and you're going to make the time worse for other people. So, I mean, on the contrary, if you go camping and hiking with people that know what they're doing, that can be really great because you can learn a lot from them. You can find out new stuff. You can kind of go like, oh, okay, so I'm the newbie here, and I clearly have overpacked, but you know what's going on. I'm going to learn from you. That doesn't happen a lot, though. Like I would say, in my experience camping with groups, I don't know, 2 out of every 3 hikes or camps have been with people that were either significant others that I was dragging to camp because I was like, well, I'm going anyway, so if you want to hang out with me, let's go. Or friends that were wanted to hang out and do that. And but I did enjoy time camping with people that knew what they were doing, and the campcraft stuff. Once that's done, then you could just enjoy nature. And sometimes nature sucks. Like nature's not always nice, and you can have shitty weather, and everything can go wrong. I call those toe stubbing days. It's like when you hit your pinky toe on like a table as you're like walking in your house. It's just like that for everything you're trying. The wood's never dry enough to catch fire. You've got fucking mosquitoes everywhere. Just shit sucks. Just a bummer trip. But if you can't figure out how to make the best of it, then which is its own skill, then you're just going to be a bummer.
Yeah.
So, I tend to do solo camping because it's less for me to manage. It's less for me to have to worry about. But if I'm going to go solo camping, I need to be responsible and make sure that I'm not overexerting myself in the woods and just dying with a pack on. Like that would be a really bad day.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's not ideal, but it's good enough, And it's nice too to turn your brain off. You finally get to where you're like, great, I've got 3 days where even if somebody needs to get in touch with me on the phone, they can't. I could just turn that power off. I don't have to have anxiety about work emails or personal stuff or family stuff. It all goes on hold. I don't have to talk to anybody. I don't have to listen to anything.
You
I
just need to
listen
think about surviving.
Yeah, and if I've planned right,
I know
then
the
survival is survival is taking instant oatmeal out of a package and putting it into water over my campfire. Right? It's so clear, and it gets a lot of the clutter that gets bogged down in my mind, especially being a techie. I don't have to troubleshoot anything. The problems that I solve are directly for my own comfort for this short-term amount, and it's very nice. That's what I like about it.
Even the nature becomes shittier. Actually, the shittier the nature becomes, it's more rewarding to come back home.
It is, right? And that's a perspective
when you
shift.
take shower, and when you lie down on the bed,
Yeah.
you feel the value of it even more. So
Yeah, and having a crap trip is you get a point of pride of you going like, I made it through that.
yeah,
That sucked. It was raining, it was lightning, like very windy, it was a terrible time. But yeah, you get home when your bed's made and it's the best bed in the whole world. And you get to have that story that you go like, oh man, here was the worst camping trip I ever went on. And you know how to deal with that situation next time. You know what went wrong. You know to pack a poncho or whatever it is you needed that you didn't have at the time that made it really terrible. And you just learn from it. It's the best you could do.
we actually got lost at once, and it
Scary
was
feeling.
night, and we got rescued actually by the rescuers.
Really?
Yeah, we
Oh wow.
and the bad side is we were almost not able to get a signal. We walked
That had
so
to be
much.
scary.
Yeah, that was very scary. Of course.
How far out were you? How many miles or kilometers?
So I don't know about how much miles or kilometers, but we were we were like right deep in the woods. But the problem
Yeah.
is, it was all surrounded by cliffs. That was the problem,
Ooh, no.
and we had very little light. So, and we were panicking a little. But of course, whenever we were going, when you pass some bush, you would see it's a cliff. And I said,
Oh man.
one person suggested, should we like call the rescuers? And I was like the leader, so it was my fault. And I said, you know what? Yes, because we are not injured yet. None of us are dead. None of us need to go to hospital. Let's
Yeah.
keep it that way. Let's keep it that way. And a little later, like after we called, a little later, we actually found the route. But it was so
that's
late.
funny.
But it was so
Yeah.
late. We would have to walk so much more, but we were exhausted. So I said,
Yeah, and
it's okay.
exhaustion, that messes with your head, man. Like that's the
Yeah,
truth. And that was a good call because if you had been tired and made a mistake, like a misstep and gone off a cliff,
yeah,
even if you hadn't gone off a cliff, if somebody had just misstepped and twisted their ankle or their knee,
because it was very
that would have
dark.
been so much worse,
Yeah, it
you
was
know?
very
Because
dark.
yeah, you have to carry them or support them to get them out, and that increases the amount of risk that you have for similar injury too. And before long, if you're both hurting, there's no way a third person's carrying both of you. So you got to
And we
hope
were
that third
8 people.
person, 8 people, yeah, no way, I would have totally called the rescue. Yeah, that's the
And
right move.
for some of them, it was their first time. So
Yep,
as you can imagine, they didn't come again.
I understand.
But on the upside, only the best of the best came came
There you
back.
go.
So
And
like if
that's
they
where you
came back,
learn,
yeah, if they came
Yeah,
back from that, they're the people you can rely on, because
of course.
they were also people who were so calm. They were listening to music, and some people were saying, it's not like we're going to die or something.
Yeah, I mean, you get inconvenienced. If you, worst case, if you didn't have signal, let's say, you probably would have just laid down in the woods.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like just gone like, let's try and figure out something if the temperature was okay. But like,
because the
you
weather
know,
is wasn't that bad, and we had water. We didn't have too much food. We had just a little food, but we had water. So
yeah,
if we weren't rescued, still we weren't going to continue. We would just lie down there, just sleep there or
yeah,
something, wait for the sun to come out.
that's not bad. And I mean, I had a moment where I got lost, is so stupid, on a very small trail. I was walking my dog, and that was early on when I had just barely started learning about camping. And I was so bummed out because I was by myself. I didn't know the map very well. I only had my phone, and I didn't have enough water for myself and my dog at the time. And I think we were lost for maybe 30 minutes. And in my panic, I ended up finding the trail back. But that oh shit moment of like, oh man, my dog and I might be lost somewhere, and she's not going to know what's going on. She's just an animal, and she's probably better equipped to be out here than I am, to be honest with you. But I don't have any way of giving that animal that I love water. Uh, I feel really fucking horrible. And that may have helped spur me to learn more about, like, okay, well, it's time to learn topographical maps. It's time to learn more about navigation. It's time to learn about being aware of where I'm going and what it's like. Because I still have some things that maybe aren't super disciplined. Sometimes I'll go on trails without having that paper backup. Like I'll be in a spot where I'll go like, okay, well, it's just a day hike. I'm staying on the trail. Like I'm just gonna keep it very, very basic. But I always bring water. I always bring, a small pocket knife. Very basic, basic stuff. But yeah, people that go into the woods expecting to be, if not catered to, um, expecting second chances from nature and circumstance, they're going to have a really bad time. And it isn't until you make a fuck up that you realize, like, no, that this is it. Like, these are trees and rocks and animals. They're not going to, Disney up and give me a nice little song and point me back to the road and everything's going to be fine. Like, you have to have the abilities to get yourself out of the situation you put yourself in, or be with a group that has an emergency line or something of that nature. But again, that comes back to being able to admit I don't have all the answers.
So do you use GeoTracker, the application?
No, not yet. I've heard good things about it. I
You know
use
Wikiloc, right?
I know what?
Wikiloc.
I don't know Wikiloc.
So Wikiloc is a site. You download maps from that site and you use it on your phone with GeoTracker. So it's like a combination
So
of those two.
yeah, I'm not familiar with that. What I use is, I believe it's called Caltropo, or no, Caltopo. Excuse me. That is a free topographical map. So it's so caltopo.com, and it allows you to basically define your map sizes and throw on a few different filters, to give you what you're looking for in that area. But that I use for paper maps. As far as on my phone, I use All Trails. which is pretty good. I mean, I use the free version. It's like $30, I think, for a year.
Which one did you
But
say?
it's called All Trails,
Yeah,
and
I think
it's
it's
not
like
bad.
Wikiloc.
Oh, it might be.
So
It's not a bad program, but I'm not really loving the free version. So maybe I just need to upgrade.
so it shows you, right? It shows you like a parkour or something, like a route where you can do a
Okay.
trekking. It's
Oh,
it's
nice.
very nice. So the one which you said, yeah, all trails, it's not like that also. I thought it was
It
like
does
that also.
sound similar, yeah. Like it does have trails. Like let's say if it's a listing of trails in the areas that I'm going to, where you can bookmark it and whatnot. I mean, like it's definitely geared towards that. You can also do GPS tracking, so you hit start, and then it keeps your GPS
And you
signal
make
and
your own
tells you where
trail.
you're at. You can also do that, yeah. I mean, it's not great for that. It's better for predefined trails, but I wouldn't say it's on par with like a GPS navigation system. It's very much for beginners, and if it's not, then I haven't figured out good functions for that.
So it's actually that Wikiloc and GeoTracker. It was a very good revolution for us because of course we didn't have something like this. We didn't even have GPS when I was doing hiking and trekking, and of course we always had to rely on a guide. And of course those ones they used to have professional GPS devices like I don't know, military grade or something.
Oh yeah.
Because
Oh,
of
okay,
this,
yeah. Here's Wikiloc. Sorry, I just wanted to look it up super quick just to see, but
yeah, yeah.
um,
Thanks to
so
that
this seems like
Wikiloc,
more of an international thing.
yeah, thanks to that, we were able to go wherever we want without a guide, because with that you're able to see hidden paths, otherwise you wouldn't see.
Oh,
So we were going
well,
from yeah, of course sometimes we would get lost,
well, yeah.
but it's
I mean, it's easy to get lost anywhere with or
yeah,
without a trail.
it's
I'm just
very
gonna look
important.
really quick. Where is my current area? Greenville, because I can look for areas that are known to me at least in this region.
There's also the world map which you can click on and you can check.
Ah, there it is. Show map. Okay. Yeah, I'll have to take a look into this. So, All Trails, I believe, is more of a U.S. specific one, but Wikiloc may be better. From what I'm seeing, it seems to have a lot of the same tools, but maybe a little bit better. Oh, okay, you can send the trail to GPS or download. Okay, yeah. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate that. I'm gonna look at that afterwards.
Yeah, it's very nice. So
You
like
might have just saved me $30 a year.
so 3 or 4 people, we always have it in our cell phones, and one
Yeah.
would be the guide, and he would check to because there's the blue road, the road in blue, and there's our place. So he would find a place like that, because it's very important. Even sometimes we say we don't need, because we climb like a hill, and then we go somewhere, and on the way back, I say to myself, there's no need to look at the map or the geo tracker because like I know that we're going down. But when I check it, I realize that we're actually going exactly the other way. So we would end up in a
It's easy to get turned around.
yeah,
Like it
we would
really
end
is.
up in wilderness, and we would
And that's
definitely
what
get
got me
lost.
into paper maps, right? Because
Yeah.
even though I trust my devices to a certain extent, I'm also a techie, so I'm used to things failing. So for me, having compass skills helps, and I'm not good at them. Like I have a lot more to learn about them. I really do. But starting with paper maps and going with, okay, I'm going to take this area where I know I'm going to be hiking and going on safe trails and trying to plot this out myself, it helps with that orienteering because if I'm relying on that first and then using the phone as a backup, that saves phone battery life, right? So if I do have an emergency or need to make a call or whatever, I've got that ready to go. And the paper map, that's skills that build for the next time I go out. And if I ever get really lost, I can learn how to triangulate position based off of landmarks. Topographical maps, it's going to tell me where the elevation difference is. So all I really have to do is get up to a hill, find some other visual landmarks, and go like, okay, well, here's approximately where I am there. And it's not easy to learn. Like I definitely have a lot of respect. Well, a definite depth of respect now for people that are very wilderness oriented. You know, there's a lot of people that are hunters, that are forest rangers, even fire watches, just people that know so many different complementary skills to navigate, as well as survival skills in general, that there's so much to process. But when you get into the habit of integrating them and putting them to practice, what I hope is that it should get easier. It becomes a skill set that's ready to go all the time. Um, because I'm not a Luddite. I love tech. I've got way too much tech in my regular life anyway. I'm never going to be completely rid of technology, but I have a lot of respect for the old school methods that allowed us to get to technology. So I try to favor those before GPS and tech where I can.
Of course.
Yeah.
So going alone versus going with a group, always had that problem. I always had that problem also because we used to go with groups. So if you go with the easy group, it's like tens and tens of people, and there are old. I'm talking about the clubs, the hiking clubs and trekking clubs. There are I don't know, older women. There are kids. They always slow you down, and you actually have to wait for them. For example, they give right before we were starting, they would give breakfast breaks for like 1 hour, 2 hours. It would be so boring. And then you go to the B group, like the group which is one above it. It's like they're running inside the forest. You can't even catch up with them. And then you say to yourself, and they're going like 25 kilometers or something. And then you say to yourself, I mean, I'm not even enjoying the nature.
Yeah.
So thanks to these things like GeoTracker, Wikilog, you don't have to go with a group, and you call your best friends who also like this stuff. And I'm very lucky that I'm famous, because when you're famous, you can actually reach to so many more people, and you can literally pick your friends for different occasions and for different occasions. Like you can pick your martial arts friends, you can pick your retro gaming friends, you can pick your D&D friends, you can pick your trekking friends.
It's
And
almost like a theme trip.
yeah, so all of us, we like taking photos also. So of course we can stop whenever we want, we can take photos, nobody is dragging us, or nobody is saying, okay, you have to keep up with us,
Yeah.
But of course we don't have to stay very slow or something like the A group. So that's why I asked. That's why I asked if you have friends. I would be bored without that.
Yeah, no, and I'm with you. I like that I can define my own pace, and I get to where I don't know. I love some trips are going to be about photography. Some of them are going to be about just relaxing. Some of them will probably be more towards exercise, where I'm not stopping as much, but I'm just trying to get my cardio going and like keep a steady pace. But I think ultimately why I don't like working with groups is that you're always having to average out whatever you're doing to the group needs. And it's not always bad, but more often than not, it just gets frustrating. So absolutely agree with you on that one. And I mean, it sounds like your B group was more about like just fitness in the woods. Like they would have been running, anywhere. But yeah, I'm with you.
Even those are 12, 13 people. But our group is like 4, 5 best.
That's not a bad size. Like anything larger than that tends to be a little unwieldy.
Yeah, because then you have to fit the group. The group wants to go, you can't just stay and take photos. But if you're just 4 or 5 people, you can stay whenever you want. Like you see a nice place, you can take photos. It's not a problem.
Yeah.
So when you talked about going to gym, I actually forgot. Did you change your diet, or probably you changed it? Probably you changed, but in what ways did you change? And do you have like I don't know, recommendations for people who want to like lose weight?
Oh, well, I mean, all right, so I did change my diet a bit. And I do have to go soon as well. So I don't know if this will be my last question, but it's coming up. So when it comes down to the diet stuff, I went from pretty much doing nothing right? Sitting at my computer all day, maybe going to walk to pick up my mail and then coming back, like very minimal exercise. Which meant that every calorie that I had over whatever my body needed to maintain was going to become fat. So, your basic body needs, what do they say, like 2,000 calories a day? That's assuming a certain level of activity. So I think it's more, and I'm not a nutritionist, by the way, so these are very rough numbers. But like 1,500 calories is probably more in line with what I need because I'm just sitting on my ass. Like my heart just needs to pump blood and I just need to breathe, maybe go to the bathroom. But like what I changed when I said like I'm gonna try and lose weight is I got away from processed foods as much as I can. I still have them sometimes as a treat because of what we talked about earlier with like sugar and salt and so many different products. And I said, okay, well I'm gonna go with protein and vegetables. Like I can't go all protein because then you don't have any fiber, you don't get a lot of nutrition. But I want to have basic protein, so chicken, right? Throw on some seasonings, but don't get too fatty with like the butter or anything. Cook it in olive oil or bake it. And then take some vegetables, some carrots and potatoes, and maybe a little bit of onion. Roast those in the oven, no fried foods or anything like that. And then just have that as a basic meal throughout the week. Then make small adjustments here and there. Some weeks I'll have like, you know, beef, like a steak stew kind of thing. Similar deal, right? It's just going to be protein, veggies, but now I'm adding like beef broth and maybe some different seasonings and whatnot. But it also comes down to portion control. So you got to make sure that you're not just eating because you're bored. For me, I'm a snacker. I love to have like, bagel chips. I'm obsessed with garlic bagel chips are just so fucking delicious to me. But like that kind of thing, like snacky foods and chips and carbs and sweets as well. Like I'm not having any sweets at the moment, but I have like beverage packets that are only like 10 calories. But they have like pineapple flavor or grape flavor or whatever. So I'll do that. So I'm still getting hydration, but I get a little bit of sweet flavor from there too. So it's really just substituting that, making sure that my calories are useful. Like that's the other thing. It's not just about the amount of calories, it's how they're being used by my system. So if I can go towards a protein rich diet, like having almonds or chicken or, something like that, I know that that's going to help my energy levels stay up throughout the day and it's not going to be such a hungry feeling. I've noticed that with carbohydrates, pastas and chips or whatever, you can eat, you're always going to feel empty because it's just empty calories and it's small volumes of food and it's just crap, really. There's no way to feel satisfied with that.
You can also have clean carbs actually, like
Well,
whole
for that I
wheat.
do starches. Like, yeah, I mean, if I have rice, I usually do like brown rice. But right now I'm sticking with like russet potatoes, and keeping it for right now it's fairly restrictive, just so I can keep things simple. But yeah, I tend to kind of go that way, and I minimize how many carbs I take in. But if I do take them in, I try and make sure that they're a vegetable or something that has some good nutritional content. That's really been it. I mean, I don't have any crazy overarching theory. For me, it seems very simple at a basic level. I'm just trying to do, a definite habit at minimum every week. I'm going to do 3 days at the gym and I'm going to exert myself while I'm there to a point where I'm sweating, I'm burning a lot of calories. I feel like I've put in good time there. And then throughout the whole course of the week, I'm just going to maintain my eating to where it's not eating to feel full or eating to deal with boredom, but eating with intent to like fuel that muscle building. So I can challenge myself more at the gym and to be healthier too. But consistency is the most important thing because I'm not doing exercise until I'm fit enough to stop doing exercise. I'm not at that point metabolically where I can say that there's an end point. I'm just going to have to exercise probably for the rest of my life. And diet wise, I'm not doing a diet that's a short term only thing. I'm basically saying I need to eat right for as long as I want to live. Like, I just need to do that now, which is kind of late, man. I shouldn't be doing this at 37. I should have done this many years ago. But I think
Better
that
late
I'm
than
at least
never.
coming to a good spot. Yeah, it is better late than never, but man, it's closer to never than I would have liked.
By the way, you can also use walnuts. Walnuts is also nice, and also tuna fish for protein.
I hate tuna. I
Oh,
really do. I can have it. Like they have I can't remember the name of the company right now, but they have foil packets,
hmm,
which has tuna that has some flavoring, so sometimes they're teriyaki or Szechuan chicken, or well, that would be the chicken one. But there are different flavor packets, and those are tolerable.
hmm,
But for me, tuna fish is so gross. I just can't get past it. So I do chicken. Like they have like white chunk chicken packets in
hmm.
a similar deal. But I'm there with you. That and like oats.
Turkey
I
also.
really like turkey's okay, but I don't know how to cook it right, so it tends to be pretty dry. So I don't really get too much into the the turkey thing.
Hmm.
I always liked ham, but ham has too much salt. Like it tends to be very salty or sweet,
Probably.
the way that it's prepared there.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm still tinkering around with it, but I mean, yeah, I these days it's kind of almonds and chicken and veggies. That tends to be sort of the main stuff.
I'm glad you're going on the right way because whenever I ask some of my friends, they say, "Oh, I need to lose weight. I started a diet," and they say all kinds of crazy diets. You can't keep that diet. They're saying, for example, I only eat once a day. I mean, you can't
Yep.
keep. I mean, for other people maybe it works, but you can't keep it like that, and then they don't. Or
It's not
they say,
sustainable.
I only
They're
eat
fad
fruits.
diets.
Like they're saying, I only eat fruit. I mean, come on, you can't keep that. You need something which you can keep forever. But of
Yeah.
course, the difference is you lose weight slower, but it's
Mhm.
much healthier. Like you don't have to push yourself, I shouldn't eat, or you don't have to starve yourself. No, you don't
Yeah,
starve
I don't want to
yourself,
be
you
in
eat.
pain. Like
Yeah,
I still want to have delicious food.
yeah,
And I mean, part of it is like you have to look at it as, other complementary skills are coming along for the ride. I'm also learning how to cook for myself a lot better, healthier foods. So I'm saving money. I'm not like getting delivery pizza. I'm not going and getting fast food where it's got a bunch of sugars and bullshit that's been added in. I know what goes into my food because I buy it at the grocery store. I mean, yeah, some of it probably has hormones and fucking it's a whole nother industry problem. But keeping it simple, I'm putting it in the marinade. I'm deciding how to cook, whether I want to saute it or roast it or what have you, and I'm making those healthy choices. And each time there's a choice, I get to say like, well, I could cook it with butter, which would make it delicious, but I don't fucking need that. I guess we're gonna go with olive oil.
yeah,
And like, oh well, salt would probably be really good here, but I don't want to do too much salt because my sodium's gonna be through the roof, and that's not gonna be good for gym day.
yeah.
So it's a constant balancing act. But I'm there with you. Like fad diets, they work in the short term. A lot of them do, for real. Like if you're only having one meal a day, your body is starving a bit, and you're going to lose some weight.
But you get it
Um,
back.
yeah, you're gonna get it right back, and you're gonna think that like you have some magic switch that by starving yourself, you can then eat like trash every 3 weeks and then just go one meal a day for a week. Like you're gonna have this weird coping process over and over again.
Yeah,
But I'm all about the long term taper off of doing it correctly and making permanent changes.
yeah.
So yeah, consistency is a huge deal because I've done the fad diet thing. I've done that a few times and it was always worse afterwards because
Hmm.
the root problem was my own inactivity and food choices. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to just address both of those as best I can.
Yeah, I was going to say, someone from the chat said, eat less, move more, that's it. It's
Yes, absolutely.
actually not that's it because eat right is more important. Not eat less, but eat right.
Well, okay, yeah, you got a good point. Well, if you're eating properly, then you're able to have more volume of wholesome food.
It's
So
very
yeah, you are
important.
right. But eat less, as in like eat less calories
Calories.
overall in proportion to your movement. Yeah, it's pretty much that way. But
So
yeah,
for me, the magic, sorry, the magic,
for you, what?
for me, the magic was trying to find the food which makes you full compared to how many calories it has. If you
Oh
find that
yeah,
one, then you're able to lose weight. Not
that
by
that's
starving.
roasted veggies for me.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like that's part of why I like it is because I've always been one that really liked like crock pot veggies, like really slow cooked veggies from like stew. I was like, okay, cool. I know I love potatoes and carrots that way. And I've always loved like broccoli. Like I've got no beef with veggies. Like it's all really good there. But finding out how simple it was to just toss some veggies in olive oil after you cut them up a little bit, add some seasoning, and then throw them in the oven. It sounds so simple, but
That's like
I just,
Izmir food.
you know, It's so good. It's so
Yeah.
basic. Like, and I think that when you start to really, when you look at cooking and preparing your meals as a way of tinkering with different ideas and going like, oh, well, I wonder if I can get this flavor going, it helps make it less of a chore. Because some people, like I was actually, see cooking as, well, I've got to, cook for 20 minutes and then clean for another 20 or 30 minutes in order to eat for 10 minutes, right? They just look at it as like this is a huge waste of time. And the truth is, that's just because you're a beginner and you don't know what the fuck you're doing. Like, you can clean as you go, and there are ways to make it a lot better of an experience. And it's, I guess, what I'm ultimately trying to focus in on is enriching my life with skills that are healthy and good for me. And that's part of the hiking, it's part of the cooking, it's part of the fitness. And it also ties in with content creation because that's an accountability check, right? If I wasn't doing these things, I wouldn't want to talk about them on YouTube. I wouldn't want to develop,
Yeah.
and I wouldn't want to share this experience with folks. And ever since I started doing the YouTube stuff again, I've gotten some wonderful comments from people that are like, "Hey, I'm a fat fuck in my late 30s too. Like, thanks for motivating me. Like, it's good to have this going," because there's no shame in that. There's a lot of pride, I think, in like I'm proud of anybody that admits like, "Hey, I got something I got to work on. Thank you for doing this because that makes me feel like I can do that." Some people have said about me making content in the past, they were just like, all I thought was if this asshole can do it, I'm sure as hell going to be able to make videos too. One of my exes actually said that. And she's a Patreon too, actually. Her name's Denise. She was like, if this fucking basket case of a human being can sit down and make videos, I should be able to do anything I want. And I love that. I really do. Because I think that if people felt more empowered to do things the way they wanted to do it, if they wanted to um, blaze their own trail doing whatever it is, it can inspire any number of people to find their own way and to get started. Because, I mean, you're never going to agree with everybody all the time, but I think you feel a lot better in this life if you're doing something you feel passionate about.
So the same the same way I was thinking for Justin Trudeau. You know who he is?
Yes.
The Canadian Prime Minister. Because I always follow him and I say, okay, if this guy can become a prime minister, I can be anything.
Yeah, I get that. Like, there's, and it's funny too. And I think that as part of the growing pattern, when you're a kid, you think that adults or older kids or whatever, they have so much more knowledge than you, or they're the authority or whatever. Then you finally grow into that age and you go, oh, no, y'all were just winging it, or you're working with whatever you could figure out at the time. It's empowering, and you can finally go like, you know, I don't have to see this as an unattainable thing. I can just try. And that's something that I've learned from my damn near infinite amount of hobbies. I have way too many hobbies, brother, but that's how it goes. When you try something and fail, that's the first step of getting much better at it. And it's having the courage to laugh at your own failures. It's having the flexibility of self to say, I am never going to be a perfect person. I don't have to be a perfect person. I'm here to make mistakes and to make life better for myself or the people that I care about. That's what matters. Because everything else is just pride or self getting in the way or ego, right? That doesn't do anything for anybody. If I'm all puffed up in the mirror and going like, you're the best at whatever, blah, blah, blah, that's a point of frailty. That's a point that says any asshole that tells you you're not the best is now going to be picking apart this really fragile idea of who you are. There's no strength in that. It's very brittle.
Yeah.
And I instead like that I've developed into the kind of person that can laugh at my very dumb mistakes. I make some really good bingers, but I will also learn from them. And that, I think, for me personally is a wonderful thing. And I encourage that in anybody with any task, is just learn to love your mistakes, because they will teach you humility, and they might teach you how to not make that same mistake again. You may make a worse mistake, who knows? But if you keep that buoyancy of self-care up, if you keep the permission to allow yourself to explore and have fun with it, it always gets better, you know? Even if it's in this small little bubble of what you're working on, then it does get better. It's nice.
Maybe when you visit, you'll have another hobby, Aikido.
Aikido? Yeah, I would be open to taking that class. I mean, I really would. I don't have any martial arts skills, so I will definitely be laughing the whole way. But yeah, that would be fun. If I visit, sign me up. I will sign up for at least one
Definitely.
class.
Before you go, I want to show you something
Sure.
because I didn't have it last time, which we had. So do you know what this is? You should know because of your age, because you're almost the same age as me.
Oh man. Oh, Commodore. Yeah.
So this is my
Wow,
this
you've
is
even
my
got some
keyboard
sweet stickers on there too, buddy.
from when I used to be in elementary school. So this is my
Dude, that's
keyboard.
so sweet. It's in great shape.
So we
That's
use
good, man.
we use
I
it
appreciate the hell out of that.
we use it as a USB keyboard. One of my friend, who's a genius. I mean, I call him a genius. He says he's not, but he made this USB keyboard.
That's great. So he converted it over, like he's
Yeah,
got.
with Arduino. You know Arduino? He
I
used
do
that.
know Arduino.
Yeah.
I don't know it well, but I have one gathering dust somewhere over here in these shelves. I'm more of a Raspberry Pi guy, but Arduino is really amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice, man. I've got
That's
my
my hobby.
CRT monitor and whatnot, but I'm
Yeah.
nothing but respect, man. I love the retro tech.
Yeah.
Always a good upcycle.
I'm a retro collector.
Nice.
I really love those things. You know,
Yeah.
some people collect retro cars, old cars. I collect retro computers, old consoles.
See, I do old tech. Like it's about upcycling, but I also do. I think we talked about this last time. Typewriters. Did I show you typewriters?
No, you didn't show.
I'll have to bring them out next
Mm-hmm.
time we do a stream because I've got a couple of old school typewriters from like the 50s and 40s that I keep. It's just something I've collected for a while over the years.
I
And
also have one. My
oh, do you really?
Yeah, my father used to have, and I used
What
to have
kind?
my turn. I don't know. It has like white keys. It has white keys, but it's dark. It has white keys. I mean, cream or cream color, light color.
Is it? Do
But
you know
it's
about what
black.
like era it's from? Like the 60s or 50s or?
When my father used to be like a university, I will definitely take a photo. It's not in this house, it's in the other house, but I'll definitely
Yeah.
take a photo. So I'll put all those retro stuff when we're building a studio right now for like better quality YouTube videos. So at the
Yeah.
back, I'll put all the retro stuff and put some lights. It's
Oh,
going to
that'll
have
be
some
cool.
depth. Yeah.
Yeah, I've
It won't-
thought about
it won't
doing
be
the
just
same
like
thing.
this
Like,
anymore.
yeah,
it
no,
won't
I
just-
want to build out my background with a little
Yeah.
bit more set type of stuff as well. So I totally hear you.
Yeah.
Nice.
So I hope I didn't keep you too much because.
No, we're right on time.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, this has been great, dude. Thanks again for having me on, and thank your
Thanks for
chat
coming.
for coming out too. I appreciate it.
Sorry, we don't have too many people because not too many people know
Yeah.
English.
That's fine.
But it's
No,
okay.
no, this has
More
been,
people are going
this
to
has
watch
been
it
nice.
as not live anyway.
Yeah, no, I mean, a few of your subscribers have come over and said hello in my videos as well, and
Oh, that's nice.
yeah, you've got a really nice community actually over here. So, maybe at some point I will put in some efforts to learn a little bit of Turkish, like just to. I know I'll embarrass myself, but as we said before, I might as well try, and maybe that can help out. You guys can.
You
have
can
some
just say
fun with the,
merhaba, güle güle. Merhaba means hello.
you might have to say that again real quick.
Merhaba.
Madhaba,
Yeah.
is that it?
Yeah.
Did I put the accent on the right one, or is it Madhaba?
No, it's
Like
it's
more
correct.
flat?
Merhaba.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So
We'll try and do small
like,
things as we go.
yeah, every Hollywood actor or every singer or something, the first thing they learn when they come to Turkey and merhaba Türkiye or something like that. Merhaba Istanbul. That's the first
Okay.
thing they learn.
Yeah, I mean that's typically it's like hello, goodbye,
Yeah.
how are you, where's the restroom, like all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. So, all right, well, good, man. Well, thanks again for having me on stream, and touch base. We can always do this. I'm off like Wednesdays and Thursdays. So whenever you want to schedule these, just hit me up. A week or two in advance, and I'll make sure that I've set aside that time. But
Yeah.
I appreciate you, man. This has been a great discussion.
Yeah, no problem. I can also come to
Yeah.
your channel one day. That would also be
If you
fun.
like. Yeah, no, I haven't done a live stream on YouTube in a minute, so maybe I need to do that. But also, before I forget, look up that Disco Diffusion stuff that I sent you because
Oh
Even though it
yeah.
may not be exactly what you're looking for,
Hmm.
that Google Collab link towards the bottom there,
Hmm.
there should be a way that you can run that within your browser to at least experiment with it before
Hmm.
you deploy it to a computer, because you can also download the code. I put in the GitHub there as well.
That's nice.
So considering you're looking at diffusion AI, I'm not sure exactly what Disco Diffusion is versus what you've downloaded, but this one's very user friendly and allows for a lot of processing. So
Hmm.
I was impressed with it, but I
I'll
don't know a
definitely check
ton
it.
about
I'll definitely check
AI
it.
image generation. So
Probably
yeah.
tonight I'll check it.
Oh yeah, whenever works for you. It's all there in your DMs. So
One very little question.
sure.
Are you thinking of making another video soon? Do you have something in your mind?
I'm thinking about doing one this evening.
Hmm.
I don't know when I'll post it, but I'm actually writing out some kind of scripted ideas. I had already recorded it, and it was really serious, and I didn't like how it came out.
Hmm.
So like I I want to make one that's a little bit less intense, so it's still kind of comedic.
Hmm.
But yeah, I do have something in mind. So my goal is right now I'm trying to put out one video a week where I can. Like there's going to be some gaps sooner or later. But also on the Patreon, I'm putting uh, old videos that have been private or unlisted for a long time. I'm actually posting that on the Patreon feed, and some exclusives which aren't much. It's just very short, unedited ones of just like, here's my accountability check for last week. Here's how many times I went to the gym. Blah blah blah blah
Patreon
blah.
Boh3m. I'm checking now.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And I mean, you don't have to contribute too much. It could just be a buck if you want, because I do have Patreon tier all the way down to like $1, where I get like it's
Hmm.
like 60 cents or something.
Hmm.
But yeah, so I have some of the archives on there. But what I'm doing is I'm posting out those older links,
Hmm.
because it's not all the way on there yet. But I'm just sort of spreading that out a little bit. But yeah, so that there should be some stuff coming up. I should be able to get it recorded and edited this evening. It's tough for me to figure out what my production pipeline looks like, because I've had to work on a new intro, which is thankfully done, so I don't have to work on that today. But recording and cutting is a habit that I haven't quite gotten the rhythm of yet. So,
I was actually hoping that you would make an intro like that, putting your old videos also and combining with new stuff. It was
oh,
very nice.
nice. So you like the new intro?
Yeah, I definitely like it because it's
Thank
very,
you.
it's all, it's, I think it's a combination of old and new, right? Am I mistaken?
It is. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's I grabbed stuff from, like, I grabbed maybe two or three clips at most from the older videos, and then I took a bunch of footage from that had never been released. It was just random scripts from my phone and stuff over the years. And then some new footage as well. Yeah. Like there's one part where I'm like in a basement drawing, and it's like time lapse footage.
Hmm.
That's actually from 2020 in Denver, Colorado, where I was messing around with my DSLR. So
Hmm.
yeah, there is some new footage in there as well. And I think what I'll probably do is over time I'll update it and add and
Hmm.
move stuff around in there and kind of refine it a little bit. But I'm glad you like the new intro.
The music is new, or was it like the old one, the same as old one?
No, it's definitely new.
It's
The
new,
problem
right?
with the old intro music is that it sampled a song by a band called G Love and Special Sauce.
Hmm.
Even though I love that intro, because it was made by Mad V. I don't know if you remember Mad V. He had like the
No.
V for Vendetta mask, and he did magic tricks on YouTube back in the day.
Oh yeah, there was a
He did
guy.
the video with the hand that was like love or whatever. Do you remember that?
Was it the same one which had the like playing cards?
I
Or
think
maybe
so. He
maybe there's
always
a
had
different.
on like a gray hoodie and like a V for Vendetta mask.
Maybe I would remember if I saw him.
Probably it was
I am not.
Mad V, so
Hmm.
MADV.
Hmm.
But nice fella anyway. But I mean, like he put it together, so I'm always gonna love that intro. But this is a new one by a friend of mine called the Graceful Bard. She streams on Twitch. She does a lot of like electronica and like loop based work. She actually puts on a really great live show. But we were talking, and I was like, "Hey, I need a new theme song. Let me pay you so that I can finally have a song that I definitely have licensing for."
Hmm.
Um, and I gave her a couple of ideas of like songs that I was going for, which would usually just be like these really twangy guitar, 60s, surf rockies sounding like weirdness. And I was like, just give me something odd that you think will fit with my channel that we just do random stuff with. And I absolutely love what she did, like the whistling and like vocals and like it makes me think of like a weird X-Files like 60s show theme song,
I
like
think it's
Twilight Zone on acid.
I think it's
All right,
here.
I'll say it. The old
Think what's
internet's
it?
toxic.
Ah, this one, right?
Which one? I'm not hearing anything.
Oh, well. So, oh, yeah, you only hear this. But it was, the audience heard it. Sorry. I thought you were also hearing it. The audience heard it. So it's your new,
Oh, okay.
It's your new song, right?
Yeah, it's on the newest video, I guess. So it'll be like some kind of whistling stuff and whatnot.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. So I think she did great work, actually. I'm a big fan of it.
Yeah. So I won't keep you too much, too long. I
Oh,
think
yeah, I do have to go.
it's okay, no problem. See you. Have fun. And
Definitely.
have a very nice day. I'll have an announcement for the friends. Arkadaşlar, esas yayınımız, our real live show is going to be the long one. Is going to be on Saturday. Size güzel şeyler hazırladım. Zaten çoğunuz burada değilsiniz. Not many of you are here anyway. So you're going to see. On Saturday you're going to see. Nothing but the best. Nothing but the
Nice.
See you.
All right, man. Well,
Take
you have
care.
a great stream.
You
Stay
too.
in touch.
Bye.